Who's the black private dick that's a sex machine to all the chicks? You're damn right.
So what is up? Are we going to behave tonight, or are we going to all piss Mommy off?
Who is the man that would risk his neck for his brother, man?
This is Snake. I'm on the Debbie Daily Show right now. I am from the Skype assholes. We are lords of the internet.
Who's the cat that won't cop out when there's danger all about? Right on. You see, this cat chef is a bad mother. What I'm talking about, Chef?
Hello, this is Bebop, and you're doing the right thing. You're listening to the Debbie Daily Show.
Boo-boo could follow the money. Maybe you are stupid. I'm stupid. Mm-hmm. Stupid is as stupid does, and I do some pretty damn stupid things.
This is the chat with Tech and Chat Warrior Stab Music Hubs, and you're listening to Debbie Daily and our show.
Nobody likes a Debbie Downer, okay? I mean, you gotta snap out of it, Debbie. Come on, Deb, you're even bumming me out now, okay? Your attitude just sucks.
I just want everything to go back to the way it was.
Don't we all, Cartman? At least I think that's Cartman. I'm Debbie Daly with you here on Sunday night, the 10th day of November of the year 2013 on Blog Talk Radio, doing a show of the continuing study with my co-host, Mr. Solution of the Bible. Let's jump right into it head first. Is this you, Mr. Solution?
Yes, it is. Hi, Debbie. How are you?
I'm grand. If I were any better, I'd be triplets.
There you go. There you go.
And how are you, sir?
Good. Excellent.
Good, I am
too.
Yeah,
should be an invigorating study, and Abraham has a lot on his plate.
Yes, he does. Let me pick up Bible Gateway, and a couple of people wanted to be on the show with us tonight, and I warned them all ahead of time. I said, now listen, when Mr. Solution is teaching, you have to be very patient and very quiet and stay muted and give him the utmost respect and, add anything that you want to add in. So tell me, we are on, I'm going to get all set up and be all set up, and I won't be doing this when we're trying to just talk. We're on Genesis 17 or 18, sir?
18. Yeah, we're about to see Yahweh himself, along with the two angels, and Abraham is going to have a very, vigorous discussion in terms of the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yes, they do.
All right, I'll stand by until you get set up.
I'm pretty much ready to go whenever you are. The only thing I was going to do is I have some excellent audio on this exact part that I wanted to play for the people, if you don't mind. It'll kind of help them to understand what's going on. It has to do with the exact part that we're talking about. The pleading with God of Sodom and Gomorrah, the part when the angel appears to Sarah and everything.
Right. Well, it's Sarah now. Remember, we had a name change from Abram and to Abraham, and from Sarai to Sarah.
You're right.
So that's very significant in the biblical timeline.
No, you're definitely
But at any
right.
rate, yeah, I look forward to hearing those clips.
It's interesting because it goes right along with what we're talking about, and I love it. I just love it. I'm sorry. I just love it. I think it's great because it shows. It just sort of goes, like I said, right along with what we're studying, and it actually is exactly what we're studying, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, and the thing is, and I try to bring this out as much as possible, we see real-life situations transpiring, And because human nature doesn't change, that's what makes the Bible so relevant. You can read virtually every issue or concern that we're having today. It was had in the Bible numerous times, by the way. So it's a phenomenal book that I think if one will extract from it, they can really get the benefit of this. And I think the audience will tonight, as they usually do.
We get great feedback. I know that. We're one of a kind on here. A lot of people are really raving about this and don't know. Some are like, I never knew anything about the Bible until I started listening to you, Debbie, on you and Mr. Solution on Sunday nights. That's how much people are getting out of this, Mr. Solution. They're even saying that they never really listened to the Bible, or they didn't really know that much about the Bible until they watched us. Listened to us, excuse me.
Right. Well, I suspected, along with the testimony that you had given, that we reach a unique audience, possibly people who would never, examine the Bible, or none of their friends would. But at least they see here pretty much an open, a transparent discussion. I mean, they can chime in at their leisure, or type in questions, whatever. So it's a real nice forum.
Okay, starting off, everybody, I want y'all to listen to one of the most epic portrayals of this of which we speak tonight. And you will be hearing Abraham addressing his wife Sarah on how he's got to get to Sodom and Gomorrah to save Lot. And here we go, starting in 3, 2, and 1.
We have some trained men.
Abraham, you are not soldiers.
I told them to trust in God. I made Lot come with us.
And then they left us. They had their pick of the land. It was their choice.
They are family. We have to help them. God will take care of us.
And this is the attack on Lot, where they're being held captive. No, I was on the wrong part. This is before he was in Sodom. But here is the visit from the two angels and God Himself.
Have you traveled far?
Yes, a long way. Abraham, where is your wife? In there.
Next year, Sarah will...
Okay, David, when you called in, you killed my audio, dear. I'll pick you up in just a second, so hang on. Don't call me right now. I'll call y'all in.
We'll have a son. Why do you laugh?
I didn't laugh.
You did. And when you have a son, you will name him Isaac, which means laughter.
Thank you for your hospitality. We must go.
Can I help you on your way? Where are you going?
To decide the fate of Sodom.
To decide the fate of Sodom. That was one of the angels speaking. So that's kind of where we are, right, Mr. Solution?
Correct.
And here we go in the Bible, the same exact thing that we just listened to. And here we go. Check it out.
Genesis 18. The Lord appeared to Abraham near the great trees of Mamre while he was sitting at the entrance to his tent in the heat of the day. Abraham looked up and saw 3 men standing nearby. When he saw them, he hurried from the entrance of his tent to meet them and bowed low to the ground. He said, "If I have found favor in your eyes, my Lord, do not pass your servant by. Let a little water be brought, and then you may all wash your feet and rest under this tree. Let me get you something to eat, so you can be refreshed, and then go on your way, now that you have come to your servant." "Very well," they answered. "Do as you say." So Abraham hurried into the tent to Sarah. "Quick," he said, "get 3 seahs of the finest flour, and knead it, and bake some bread." Then he ran to the herd, and selected a choice tender calf, and gave it to a servant who hurried to prepare it. He then brought some curds and milk, and the calf that had been prepared, and set these before them. While they ate, he stood near them under a tree. "Where is your wife, Sarah?" they asked him. "There, in the tent," he said. Then one of them said, "I will surely return to you about this time next year, and Sarah, your wife, will have a son." Now Sarah was listening at the entrance to the tent, which was behind him. Abraham and Sarah were already very old, and Sarah was past the age of childbearing. So Sarah laughed to herself as she thought, "After I am worn out, and my Lord is old, will I now have this pleasure?" Then the Lord said to Abraham, "Why did Sarah laugh and say, 'Will I really have a child now that I'm old?' Is anything too hard for the Lord? I will return to you at the appointed time next year, and Sarah will have a son." Sarah was afraid, so she lied and said, "I did not laugh." But he said, "Yes, you did laugh." When the men got up to leave, they looked down toward Sodom, and Abraham walked along with them to see them on their way. Then the Lord said, "Shall I hide from Abraham what I am about to do? Abraham will surely become a great and powerful nation, and all nations on earth will be blessed through him. For I have chosen him so that he will direct his children and his household after him to keep the way of the Lord by doing what is right and just, so that the Lord will bring about for Abraham what he has promised him." Then the Lord said, "The outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is so great, and their sin so grievous, that I will go down and see if what they have done is as bad as the outcry that has reached me. If not, I will know." The men turned away and went toward Sodom, but Abraham remained standing before the Lord. Then Abraham approached him and said, "Will you sweep away the righteous with the wicked? What if there are 50 righteous people in the city? Will you really sweep it away and not spare the place for the sake of the 50 righteous people in it? Far be it from you to do such a thing, to kill the righteous with the wicked, treating the righteous and the wicked alike. Far be it from you. Will not the judge of all the earth do right?" The Lord said, "If I find 50 righteous people in the city of Sodom, I will spare the whole place for their sake." Then Abraham spoke up again, "Now that I have been so bold as to speak to the Lord, though I am nothing but dust and ashes, what if the number of the righteous is 5 less than 50? Will you destroy the whole city for lack of 5 people? If I find 45 there," he said, "I will not destroy it." Once again he spoke to him, "What if only 40 are found there?" He said, "For the sake of 40, I will not do it." Then he said, "May the Lord not be angry, but let me speak. What if only 30 can be found there?" He answered, "I will not do it if I find 30 there." Abraham said, "Now that I've been so bold as to speak to the Lord, what if only 20 can be found there?" He said, "For the sake of 20, I will not destroy it." Then he said, "May the Lord not be angry, but let me speak just once more. What if only 10 can be found there?" He answered, "For the sake of 10, I will not destroy it." When the Lord had finished speaking with Abraham, he left, and Abraham returned home.
There we go. I need to unmute old Rooter on the board. I hope you... didn't you want to be on the Skype call, Rooter? I guess not. Here you are. Your mic is hot, Rooter.
I just want to talk to you. I'm not worried about Skype or any of that bullshit. Oh, I didn't say... Oh, okay. You gave me the rules earlier, and I'm following them.
Okay.
Can I say hi to, like, Mr. Solution?
Sure. Go ahead.
Sup, dude?
Sure. Hi, Rooter. How are you?
I'm about halfway messed up right now, sir.
Hello, Mr. Solution. How are you doing today?
Hey, great. Who is this?
That's the kid.
His name is David. He wants to be a part of this tonight. They've all heard of Mr. Solution.
The kid must be my new...
Oh, hi, David.
The kid loves you, Mr. Solution.
Oh, great. I hope you'll enjoy tonight's presentation.
Can I... Oh, I've been given a couple of guidelines I'm not allowed to talk about on the show tonight. Oh, man, I think my booze is almost gone. I'm going to have to start the ambient.
Hey, everyone.
Hi, David.
Hey, David.
Hey.
Oh, is that the David kid or the David
No,
old
this is
guy?
this is the 28-year-old David. All I require on my Sunday night show is the utmost
Mute.
respect for the sound and the mute button and the topic.
Did I get muted?
No, you didn't get muted, dear. Mr. Solution, did you like to talk about Chapter 18 and give us your opinion on it and your dialogue on it, or what?
Okay,
for sure, definitely. We see here Abraham has three phenomenal visitors. These are, of course, angelic visitors, and one claims to be the Lord himself, because we see Lord in all caps, and that refers to Yahweh, the uncreated, the Creator, and that's the word that comes up in Exodus where he says, I am that I am. So this is the man. This is the big guy here. And what happens here, Abraham recognized these esteemed guests immediately. In verse 2 it says, Abraham looked up and saw three men standing nearby. So they did have the form or the visage or the appearance of men. And he says, when he saw them, he hurried from the entrance of his tent to meet them and bowed low to the ground. So he showed great deference and, respect. And then he said, if I have found favor in your eyes, my Lord, I pass your servant. So he's showing great hospitality. And we're going to see here, he entertains these people and he refreshes them. He says in verse 4, let a little water be brought, and then you may all wash your feet and rest under the tree. This is tremendous, because here we have these beings who obviously are transcendent. They're extraterrestrial, make no doubt about it. Their origin is not of the earth, but yet they've taken on a form of men, and they are, experiencing, the real experiences that men and women have. So their feet got dusty. They're walking in the desert. That's an arid land. And, of course, one of the things that they do in that area is the washing of the feet.
What the fuck?
Yeah, they're sitting under the shade of the tree, obviously, and they're resting. And then it says in verse 5, let me get you something to eat. And this is perfectly understandable. They've been traveling, so he's just showing hospitality. So you can be refreshed and then go on your way now that you have come to your servant. And they say, very well, they answered, do as you say. So they accepted his gracious invitation. And we see here where Abraham ran and he told his wife, quick, he said, get 3 seers of the finest flour. He was giving them the best, and knead it and bake some bread. So they were there for quite a while. We see that. And then he ran to the herd, and he selected a choice tender calf. and gave it to the servant, who hurriedly prepared it. He then brought some curds, milk, and the calf that had been prepared, and set these before them. While they ate, he stood near them under the tree. So we see they spent at minimum several hours for all of this to transpire. So they were there for quite a while. And we'll see where it points out that Abraham is a friend of God, and that's why God is sharing these things with him. God shared his intentions towards Sodom. Of course, he shared the intention and I'm just going to drop down. I'm going to come back to my place here in verse 9. But in verse 19, where this is the Lord speaking, and he says, for I have chosen, let me back up just a little bit. Verse 18, Abraham will surely become a great and powerful nation. Now that's very, very significant. And just imagine that, someone telling anyone, you're going to become a powerful nation. And obviously, he has not seen that occur. But this is a promise that God is making. So God is very, very intimate with Abraham. And he says, and all nations on earth will be blessed through him. Now that is that's a huge blessing. All nations are going to come through Abraham. And we're going to see why, too. Abraham is considered the father of faith. And verse 19, and then I'll jump back to verse 9. He says here, for I have chosen him so that he will direct his children and his household after him to keep the way of the Lord by doing what is right and just. That's very important, what is right and what is just. So that the Lord will bring about for Abraham what he has promised him. So one of the things that we're going to say here, and Abraham obviously is in the lineage of Christ, and a great discussion, you can read about it in John chapter 8, between the hierarchy, the Pharisees, and Jesus himself. But I think one of the most important points, or certainly an important point, is that God has prepared salvation, and all we have to do is express the faith. That's all Abraham really did. He trusted in God, and that's why he earned the badge or the title of the father of faith. That's very important to those that are saved. And back in verse 9, we have here, Debbie, is there a question about this? Because it's hopefully that...
No, we're doing fine.
Okay, great. Verse 9, I'm just shifting back to verse 9. It says, this is the Lord asking Abraham these questions. Where is your wife Sarah? At least they ask. So all of them are in agreement. There in the tent, he said. Then one of them said, and obviously this is the Lord, I will surely return to you about this time next year, and Sarah, your wife, will have a son. So what God is saying is he's going to perform a miracle. Now, continuing on, it says, now Sarah was listening at the entrance of the tent. So Sarah was listening to this conversation. She realized something big was going on, which was behind him. Abraham and Sarah were already very old, and Sarah was past the age of childbearing. Now, this is very significant to understand the purpose and the impact of the miracle. Okay, so she is past childbearing age, and they don't have artificial insemination and things that we have today, but yet, God is going to perform this miracle. But we're being informed that Sarah was past her childbearing age. That's very important. Verse 12 says, so Sarah laughed to herself. You know how we do sometimes. We may hear something and we contradict it, but we just do it in private. She didn't do it publicly. So Sarah laughed to herself as she thought, after I am worn out and my Lord is old, will I now have this pleasure? So in Jewish culture, a woman was considered, it was a great stigma for a woman to not be able to bear children. In fact, it was pretty much on the order of a curse. And, of course, Sarah and Abraham had been married a long time, and they didn't have any heirs. And we read about last time where Abram, before the name change, I believe, was lamenting at the fact that he didn't have an heir to pass on his substance. And, of course, God is going to remedy this. Verse 13 says, Then the Lord said to Abraham, Why did Sarah laugh and say, Will I really have a child now that I'm old? So we see now, obviously God heard Sarah. Sarah didn't know this, and she was caught by surprise because she said it to herself. So God questions Abraham about what had happened. In verse 14, is anything too hard for the Lord? Now that's a standing question, and I'm going to say negative. No, nothing is too hard for the Lord. We may consider it too hard, but it's not. And he says, I will return to you at the appointed time next year. And Sarah will, and that's, the definite future tense, not maybe, but she will have a son. And continuing on, verse 15, Sarah was afraid. See, once she was outed for her lack of faith, and she reasoned based on what she knew as a human being. I'm not faulting Sarah. Most of us would have come to the same conclusion. But it says in verse 15, Sarah was afraid. So she lied and said, I did not laugh. But he said, yes, you did laugh. So she is contradicted, and rightly so. And it says in verse 16, now we go to Abraham pleading for Sodom. And Abraham is acting as an intercessor. He's acting as an advocate for Sodom. Now, it's good to have an advocate, an able advocate, and to assist you, because a lot of us need help. So that's what Abraham is doing, and Sodom is in jeopardy of being destroyed. And you're going to see some extreme hyperbole, but don't miss the point here. God is actually, really transmitting some knowledge to us in this figure of speech here that we're going to see. It says, when the men got up to leave, they looked down towards Sodom. Now, we understand that's what they came for. They came for two things. Number one, to deliver the message to Abraham and Sarah that they were going to have a child, and also to check on Sodom. And it says, and Abraham walked along with them to see them on their way. And it says in verse 17, then the Lord said, shall I hide from Abraham what I am about to do? Abraham will surely become a great and powerful nation, and all nations on earth will be blessed through him. For I have chosen him so that he will direct his children and his household after him to keep the way of the Lord by doing what is right and just, so that the Lord will bring about for Abraham what he has promised him. So we see a juxtaposition here. We see a contrast. Now the Lord is talking about Abraham is to maintain what is just and right, or what is right and just, and God is about to look into the injustice and the unrighteousness that's going on in Sodom. And Sodom and Gomorrah, these are twin cities. We're going to see that Gomorrah is also mentioned, but we're mentioning Sodom now. And here comes the hyperbole that I was pointing out in verse 20. It says, then the Lord said, and this is the Lord saying this, the outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is so great, and their sin is so grievous, that I will go down and see if what they have done is as bad as the outcry that has reached me. Now think about that. And then he says, if not, I will know. Now, obviously God knows, but what he's doing, remember we talked about this earlier on, he's using anthropomorphism. He's using our language to transfer a deep reality to us. That what Sodom, they had so lost their way, Sodom and Gomorrah, they're so sinful, they're so evil, they're so unrighteous. God is saying, I got a message. But even being omniscient, I'm going down and check this out, because this deserves to be checked out. Hopefully I'm transmitting this where the people understand it, but just understand the sin of Sodom and Gomorrah was horrific. And you can read about some of the things that were going on there. And it was, they were on a scale with the antediluvians. These guys and gals were really bad. And so it said, any questions thus far? I mean, I've said quite a mouthful here.
We do have one question in the chat room on Spreaker. Somebody asks, and it's kind of not on the subject, but it sort of is on the subject. And the question was that God is a vengeful God, and why do you think he is not doing any big miracles like parting the Red Sea these days?
Well, those are two very important questions, and let me deal with it. First of all, you say God is a vengeful God, but what people often do, you know, if you were a trier of fact or if you were a judge, you would look at both sides of the issue. If a complaint was brought to you or when a complaint was brought to you, you would look at both sides. What about God's side? Now, God is saying he's coming down. Allow me to read this just once again. And Debbie, you know, we can banter back and forth here, and I think we should. In verse 20, it says, Then the Lord said, that's Yahweh, the outcry against Sodom and Gomorrah is so great, and their sin, don't forget that right there, and their sin is so grievous, that I will go down and see if what they have done is as bad as the outcry that has reached me. And it is as bad as that. That's why, remember when God was negotiating with Abraham, it came down to, were there 10 people in those entire cities that were righteous? And what was the answer, Debbie?
He said, if I find at least 10 people. Y'all have to remember that Sodom was much like a nowadays red light district of Las Vegas. There was gambling and Sodom, I think that's why I got the name Sodom. There was a lot of very illicit sex. There were people having sex with animals. It was just one big long party. It was horrible. And go ahead.
Yeah, and exactly. And never forget murder. I mean, everything was going on here. He said sin. He doesn't really itemize, but, you know, sin is anything that's in violation of God, against God. Sure, it was sexual sin, but it was all types, theft, murder. I think murder is a big one, just all kinds of abuse. And they weren't checking it. They weren't putting it in check. This was the order of the day. God would not have had to come down and rectify this thing if the people had been doing it themselves. And ultimately, let me just say this very candidly. You know, human beings are a creation of God, whether you want to acknowledge that or not. And you will face God either as your Savior or as your judge. But God, as the judge, the creator, has the obligation of addressing issues that arise in the human sphere. Does that make sense? That's just like if your kids are out of control. You have the authority and indeed the obligation to rectify that particular problem. So that's what God is doing. He has come down to check this out. He says, I've gotten a message, and you know, and obviously I think this is hyperbole. I think this is a figure of speech. But the essence of it is God is saying, you know, I'm just fed up. I'm not going to take this anymore. And also realize that all sins are ultimately against God, because God is the supreme authority and ruler, as it were. So at any rate, in verse 22, it says, wait a minute, where am I? But Abraham, before the Lord, then Abraham. Yes. In verse 22, it says, the men turned away and went toward Sodom. But Abraham remained standing before the Lord. Then Abraham approached him and said, will you sweep away the righteous with the wicked? Now, this is what we're talking about right here. And I understand most people's concern. And that's why it's being addressed right now. Is God unjustly judging or meting out judgment to anyone? And that's the question, being asked here. Will you sweep away the righteous with the wicked? Now, I'm going to say the answer is no, but we're going to see what's going to transpire here. Verse 24. What if there, and this is what Abraham is asking God, what if there are 50 righteous people in the city? Will you really sweep it away and not spare the place for the sake of the 50? And what does God say, Debbie?
God's an asshole.
Ruder.
I'm just saying, if he won't spare the 50, then God's an asshole.
Why would you say that about God?
Ruder. Don't do that.
It's a simple question.
Okay, this is why I don't let people on Sunday night.
That's wrong, Ruder. That's wrong.
That's not wrong.
In verse 25, it says,
hold on, let me get control. Hold on, everybody. Okay, that's it. I'm bouncing him out. I bounced Ruder out of the call. I'm not going to have that. I don't care. Go ahead. I'm sorry. He said, if I can find.
Yeah, and what it says here, because see, a lot of people just want it their way. Now, that question is being answered. He says here in verse 25, far be it from you, this is Abraham, far be it from you to do such a thing, to kill the righteous with the wicked. Now, Abraham is really asking the questions that we would ask, and I'm glad for this. And then he says, treating the righteous and the wicked alike. Far be it from you, will not the judge of the earth do right? Now, that's the standing question right there. Will not the judge of all the earth, will not the judge of all the earth do right? And so the question, I'm going to say yes, the judge of the earth will do right. It's just a lot of times we don't focus on right enough to understand God's position. And God is going to, go ahead.
No, I didn't say anything.
Oh, I thought I heard something. God is going to have his position whether we like it or not. So you may as well get on board. I mean, I'm just being candid with you. Verse 26 here, it says, the Lord said, if I find 50 righteous people in the city of Sodom, I will spare the whole place for their sake. So there you have it. God says, if I find 50 people that are righteous, then of course I'll spare the city for their sake. And Abraham, now why would Abraham, and Debbie, I'm asking you this question, why would Abraham drop it down to, I think he went to 45? Then Abram spoke up again, now that I have been so bold as to speak to the Lord, though I am nothing but dust and ashes, what if the number of righteous is 5 less than 50? In other words, 45. Will you destroy the whole city for lack of 5 people? Now, Debbie, I'm asking you, what is Abraham actually doing? He started out with 50. Now he's shifting to 45. Why do you think he did that?
Because he is wanting to know, he's asking God because he's trying to get it down, I think, to the number of people that were with Lot. Is that where you're going with this? Or not?
Well, sort of, but this is what I was thinking. See, Abraham, of course, he doesn't want the city destroyed, and he knows that Lot is down there, Lot and his family. But see, Abraham is not sure that there are 50 people. Now, God said, yes, I won't destroy it for the sake of 50 people. And Abraham says, oh, well, that's great. But see, he's not sure. So that's why he shifts to 45. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and then he says, and then God responds. God says, if I find 45 there, he said, I will not destroy it. Now, you would think Abram would end it there, but no. Verse 29, once again he spoke to him, what if only 40 are found there? So see, again, Abraham was not sure that there were 45, so he shifts to 40. What if there are 40 there? He said, for the sake of 40, I won't destroy it. So we're just continuing on here, and what we find out, if we go to example, verse 32, then he said, may the Lord not be angry, but let me speak just once more. What if only 10 can be found? Now notice he's gone from 50 to 10. And he's not sure that there are 10 there either. He answered, for the sake of 10, I will not destroy it. At verse 33, when the Lord had finished speaking with Abraham, he left, and Abraham returned home. So remember the two angels, now God is standing there having a conversation with Abraham, and the two angels have gone on their way because they are the ones that are charged with actually disciplining the city. Now, this is a great chapter, don't you think? I mean, there has been archaeological evidence, and Debbie, you may be more recent on this than I am. There's been evidence of the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, correct?
Yes, God did it with a nearby volcano.
Okay.
He did, and they have found pieces of, I'd have to ask Victor, he's out in the garage working on his project car, but there's actually evidence of this, actual archaeological evidence of what took place 2,000 years ago in the city of Sodom. There's pieces of, I can't, not volcanic ash, but it's something else. It's like something, I can't think of what it is. I'd have to ask Victor, but it's something that if you mix water with it, it becomes hotter than anything in the world and stuff like that. But that's what was used, and there's evidence of it there. They found it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Well, this is not difficult to find. They're constantly, the archaeologists spade, and this is what we call the external evidence test of any book of antiquity. Where we talked about the internal evidence test, whether it's consistent with that within itself, is not contradictory. And of course, then we talk about the external evidence test, and this is the particular external. Does a book, or in this case, does the Bible speak of locations and particular things, landmarks, etc., outside itself for the secondary corroboration? And then, of course, bibliographical tests. How many pieces of manuscript authority are there? So this is very good. So we've completed chapter 18 with the promise of Isaac, a miracle birth, and it's not a virgin birth, but it is a miracle birth because two people that were past the age of childbearing are going to be rejuvenated to produce a child. And the child's name is Laughter because the mother laughed when God promised the child. And I think that's what Isaac means is laughter. So any other observations?
Yeah, I think I found what I was looking for. It says few Bible commentators have grasped the true meaning of what being described in the phrase about fire and brimstone falling from the sky in the book of Genesis regarding the destruction of the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah. In an effort to explain this, some have said that the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah was caused by an earthquake which explosively ignited methane gas and sulfur, which was found in the local tar deposits, and caused that to shoot up into the sky. However, earthquake activity such as this unprecedented and implausible in terms of geology. For those familiar with astronomy and ancient literature, the expression fire falling from heaven is not a cryptic expression nor a literary device that needs any sort of fanciful explanation. It is simply a descriptive phrase. Fire from heaven is an accurate description for cosmic material, either a meteor, an asteroid, or a comet burning in the atmospheric fire. Further indication that a cometary bombardment took place during the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah comes from Genesis 19, verse 28, where the verse tells how Abraham looked toward Sodom and Gomorrah and toward the land of the plain, and beheld, and lo, the smoke of the country went up as the smoke of a furnace. So this guy is an archaeologist out of Tucson, Arizona, and his explanation, he's done extensive research on it, says that he believes it was comet. It was what do you call it? A comet that came down. So, whatever it was.
Yes, a comet that. Well, let me see. God does control the forces of nature, and I think this was obviously miraculous. It was a suspension. It was a special event, and the cities were destroyed because there were. Now, what happened? Obviously, we're going to see what happened, but so that's an interesting position on it, certainly. And that could be the definitive position. I was thinking a comet, not a meteorite, but an asteroid. I think that's a big hunk of rock. But a comet, did it say what a comet is? I don't know if everybody knows or not.
Oh, I've already clicked out of it. Sorry.
Excuse me?
I already clicked off the site that it was talking about it in.
Yeah, they say it's a ball of ice left over from creation. And one of the things about a comet, when it's close enough to the sun, it will have a tail. And that tail is just like what you see as a chemtrail from a lot of jets sometimes. It's just water vapor, melting. The comet is melting. But it's traveling at great speed. It's very cold in outer space. So when a comet approaches the sun, which is obviously very hot, it boils off some of the ice, melts some of the ice, and it becomes steam, which presents itself.
Excuse me. I think I found it. I think I found our answer right here in this website, where it's another archaeological website, and it says, this is interesting, guys. The location of Sodom is believed to be Babad, Dar, and Gomorrah. I'm having to click everything. Is believed to be at or near Numeira. The other three cities would reside similarly at the mouths of the wadis near the sea. Destruction debris at both Babde Durar and Numeria has been recorded as being about 3 feet thick. The region of the Dead Sea is known now and in ancient history for its natural petroleum deposits. In the past, the Romans called the sea Lake Asphaltitis because of the natural bitumen that would come up, this is hard, from deposits in the fault line beneath the lake. Bitumen is a heavy, viscous oil mixture combined with sulfur and other metals, minerals and toxic chemicals. At the time of Genesis 19, the account where there were slime pits of bitumen pits in the valley, the Jordan Rift is an unstable area with a great deal of thermal energy, as demonstrated by the hot springs on both sides of the sea, which are still there today. While the Dead Sea no longer shows evidence of vast bitumen, deposits there are still oil slicks that rise to the surface from time to time. A great deal of evidence confirming this can be found in historical accounts. Geologist Fredman Clapp formulated the theory that pressure from an earthquake could very easily cause bitumen deposits to be forced out of the earth through the atmosphere from the fault line that exists precisely at the site where Sodom and Gomorrah were. There you go. I mean, how much more proof do people need? I mean, this stuff is not make-believe. This is a history book. That's all you're doing is reading a history book. That's it.
That's true, and an inspired history book. Did it say the actual location? I mean, is that appears to be in Iraq or Iran? Where would Sodom be located? What country? Modern.
It says it gives the exact. I can't really pronounce. It gives the exact location of where it is. It actually even gave the latitude and the longitude of where it was located. And there is on that site. I'm going backwards to see if I can find it. Geologist Fredman Clapp actually discovered on that exact site of where Sodom was 3 inches of this stuff. It's bitume, and it's like bitumen. It says it's right there at the mouth of the Jordan River where the slime pits are.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'd have to look on a map, but it's right there. It says there's a fault line underneath the lake, which is the Dead Sea, of course, which is full of petroleum deposits. And if somebody would look up where the following city is, it looks like Numeira. It looks like Numeira. Numeira is where it was. The nowadays city of Numeira is where Sodom and Gomorrah were. So there you go.
Okay, great.
Excuse me.
Well, see, that's excellent research and evidence in terms of the veracity or the truthfulness of the text that we have. Again, that's considered external evidence. And when you put all of this information together, we have a trustworthy record.
Now,
It
also says the fact that there is a hot springs, Mr. Solution, on each side of the Dead Sea today, that is proof alone that the fault line is underneath there because of something. I'd have to go and keep reading it up, keep reading more and more and more. But it says, while the Dead Sea shows no evidence, like I said, of bitumen deposits, there are still oil slicks that rise to the surface in nowadays time from time to time. A great deal of evidence confirming this can be found in historical accounts. And then it says that what I read about... it says, if natural deposits of sulfur were forced into the air, the dust would have been extremely flammable. If natural heat ignited existing sulfur deposits at the time of an earthquake, the results would be catastrophic. And actually, a cataclysmic rain of fire and tar and burning sulfur would come down, okay? In Genesis' account, Abraham looked towards the cities and saw smoke like a great furnace, and this would be extremely consistent with large petroleum fire. Sulfur balls are commonly found today in that exact area. Moreover, they're conditioned to be self-extinguished in the ash and the dirt. That's what I was trying to think of, because I actually saw a documentary where they were over there and they found what he was just saying. I'm not a scientist, but they actually found balls of sulfur. They took it back to their hotel and lit it, and it was like something like 2,000 degrees or some amazing heat. It's pretty amazing. And the reason that he told his wife Lot, I know we're not there yet, but he said, do not turn and look back, because they had these big coats on. They were covered up with blankets. When she turned to look back, the dust, got her and turned her into a pillar of salt, which they've got actual proof of that, how that could very easily happen. I don't know what else I can do, people. It's true, okay? It's all true. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy.
That is amazing. That's amazing. Again, the evidence stacks up. So I'm ready for 19 when you are.
Did you know, Mr. Solution, that today there is proof of Lot's wife? They found actually on the site of Sodom and Gomorrah, there is a pillar of salt in the shape of a woman. You can tell it's standing. It's still, because it would still be there today. Nothing would have gotten. It could not have been destroyed, because it's one of those things that doesn't go away. So over in my Blog Talk Radio chat room, I'm going to be dropping the link to what I was just telling you about, which is the video showing, what I just said, Lot's wife. Going on to 19. Okay, here we go. I love chapter 19. All right, and take it away, reader.
Genesis 19. The two angels arrived at Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting in the gateway of the city. When he saw them, he got up to meet them and bowed down with his face to the ground. "My lords," he said, "please turn aside to your servant's house. You can wash your feet and spend the night, and then go on your way early in the morning." "No," they answered, "we will spend the night in the square." But he insisted so strongly that they did go with him and entered his house. He prepared a meal for them, baking bread without yeast, and they ate. Before they had gone to bed, all the men from every part of the city of Sodom, both young and old, surrounded the house. They called to Lot, "Where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us, so that we can have sex with them." Lot went outside to meet them, and shut the door behind him, and said, "No, my friends, don't do this wicked thing. Look, I have 2 daughters who have never slept with a man. Let me bring them out to you, and you can do what you like with them, but don't do anything to these men, for they have come under the protection of my roof." "Get out of our way," they replied. "This fellow came here as a foreigner, and now he wants to play the judge. We'll treat you worse than them." They kept bringing pressure on Lot and moved forward to break down the door. But the men inside reached out and pulled Lot back into the house and shut the door. Then they struck the men who were at the door of the house, young and old, with blindness, so that they could not find the door. The 2 men said to Lot, "Do you have anyone else here, sons-in-laws, sons or daughters, or anyone else in the city who belongs to you? Get them out of here, because we are going to destroy this place. The outcry to the Lord against its people is so great that he has sent us to destroy it." So Lot went out and spoke to his sons-in-law, who were pledged to marry his daughters. He said, "Hurry and get out of this place, because the Lord is about to destroy the city." But his sons-in-law thought he was joking. With the coming of dawn, the angels urged Lot, saying, "Hurry! Take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here, or you will be swept away when the city is punished." When he hesitated, the men grasped his hand and the hands of his wife and of his 2 daughters, and led them safely out of the city, for the Lord was merciful to them. As soon as they had brought them out, one of them said, "Flee for your lives. Don't look back, and don't stop anywhere in the plain. Flee to the mountains, or you will be swept away." But Lot said to them, "No, my lords, please. Your servant has found favor in your eyes, and you have shown great kindness to me in sparing my life. But I can't flee to the mountains. This disaster will overtake me, and I'll die. Look, here is a town near enough to run to, and it is small. Let me flee to it. It is very small, isn't it? Then my life will be spared." He said to him, "Very well, I will grant this request too. I will not overthrow the town you speak of, but flee there quickly, because I cannot do anything until you reach it." That is why the town was called Zoar. By the time Lot reached Zoar, the sun had risen over the land. Then the Lord rained down burning sulfur on Sodom and Gomorrah from the Lord out of the heavens. Thus he overthrew those cities and the entire plain, destroying all those living in the cities and also the vegetation in the land. But Lot's wife looked back, and she became a pillar of salt. Early the next morning, Abraham got up and returned to the place where he had stood before the Lord. He looked down toward Sodom and Gomorrah, toward all the land of the plain, and he saw dense smoke rising from the land, like smoke from a furnace. So when God destroyed the cities of the plain, he remembered Abraham, and he brought Lot out of the catastrophe that overthrew the cities where Lot had lived. Lot and his 2 daughters left Zoar and settled in the mountains, for he was afraid to stay in Zoar. He and his 2 daughters lived in a cave. One day the older daughter said to the younger, "Our father is old, and there is no man around here to give us children, as is the custom all over the earth. Let's get our father to drink wine, and then sleep with him, and preserve our family line through our father." That night they got their father to drink wine, and the older daughter went in and slept with him. He was not aware of it when she lay down or when she got up. The next day the older daughter said to the younger, "Last night I slept with my father. Let's get him to drink wine again tonight, and you go in and sleep with him so we can preserve our family line through our father." So they got their father to drink wine that night also. And the younger daughter went in and slept with him. Again, he was not aware of it when she lay down or when she got up. So both of Lot's daughters became pregnant by their father. The older daughter had a son, and she named him Moab. He is the father of the Moabites of today. The younger daughter also had a son, and she named him Ben-Ami. He is the father of the Ammonites of today.
Ouch.
Wow. All one can say is a big, whooping wow.
Wow.
And these were the mortal enemies, apparently, of the children of Israel, the Moabites and the Ammonites. They were like a blood feud. But at any rate, what comments do you have about this, Debbie?
God saves this schmuck, and then he goes and has sex with his daughters. And I'm sorry, Mr. Solution, if there was nobody else around living in a cave, you can't tell me that man wouldn't wake up the next day and knew that he had had sex with somebody. I mean, come on. You know what I'm saying? I just don't buy into it. I think that after God spared him from that disaster and then he goes on and does that, I don't like it. I think it's horrible. I didn't know that was in that chapter. I thought that was the next chapter when he did that. But I liked when he destroyed Sodom. I thought that was a great show of, fuck with me, buddies. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's like, I don't know. I think it's great when he shows himself like that, when God shows his power like that, when he draws back his mighty hand and smites people like that.
Yeah, and again, they talk about the judge. We'll go over it. But now, I think on the issue, and I don't know if you heard the full reading, is that this was the plan of the daughters. So you take exception to that?
Yeah.
And let me see. I
think that's ridiculous.
The two daughters, one day the older daughter said...
They had sex with their father?
Verse 31.
Are you kidding me? Sex with your father? I can't even comprehend that. My mind doesn't even go there, but... whatever. I mean...
the technical word for that would be incest.
Well, yeah.
Yeah,
that's
this
horrible.
is incest. Certainly. And it should not have been done, but... no, I was just reading in verse 31, it says, "One day the older daughter said to the younger, 'Our father is old, and there is no man around here to give us children, as is the custom all over the earth. Let's get our father to drink wine and then sleep with him and preserve our family line through our father.'" Now, the point of it is, it was wrong. It was obviously wrong. But you don't think that it's as presented here, or how do you construe it?
Everything about it is absolutely disgusting to me, and I stand on that. And not only that, but if you go back a couple of verses...
I agree.
If you go back a couple of verses, Lot tried to sell his daughters to those strange men. "Oh, I've got daughters in here who are virgins. Why don't you take them?" I'm like, what?
Well, let me address that. That's right. He did. That's a good point. What happened is there was actually a law, and I think it's in Deuteronomy, but obviously it was practiced before then. There weren't Holiday Inns or any of the other posh hotels, and it was considered a very high point to. In fact, God enforced this to take care of the traveler, and so when a person was under your roof, you were obligated to take care of them. And I think that's what Lot was doing. Sure, it appeared extreme, but this seemed to be an extreme condition. I mean, in terms of what was being asked. I think they said, well, let's just look at it. He said here, then the two angels, unless you had a comment. Do you have a comment on it?
There's nothing that would cause me to throw my daughter to people like that. I don't know. I can't wrap my mind around that. I just can't. I wish I could, but I can't. I think it's disgusting.
Right, and let me say this. That's a good point. This is a different, the way these people were socialized, I mean, their culture, And I think one of the great things of understanding any work is understanding the culture that work originated in. And so that was extreme, admittedly, but I think it was under the rubric of protecting the traveler. So at any rate here, it says the two angels, they arrived in Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting in the gateway of the city. So apparently Lot had ascended to some position of power, because the gate was considered the place where judgment, it was like the court. We would call it our modern-day court. But it says here, when he saw them, he got up to meet them and bowed down, just like Abraham, with his face to the ground. So he was showing great respect. My lords, he said, please turn aside to your servant's house. So he invites them to his house. You can wash your feet, you notice the washing of the feet, and spend the night. And then, they could go away early in the morning. But they declined. They said no. They wanted to spend the night in the square. Now, I don't know exactly why that was. Maybe it was to get an idea of what was going on, but obviously Lot convinced them otherwise. In verse 3, he insisted, and they went with him. And then, you notice in verse 4, it says, before they had gone to bed, all the men from every part of Sodom, both young and old, surrounded the house. They called to Lot, where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us so that we may have sex with them. Now, what do you think about that? One gets an idea of why Lot did some of the things that he did based on what he was challenged with.
I still hold my same position about it. I just find it disgusting that anybody would do that. I mean, I don't know. Did he know they were? Did he know they were angels?
Right, yeah.
Did he know they were angels?
I agree. It was. I think this whole situation God told us it was bad, right? We were warned that bad things were going on down there, and I think we're getting an opportunity to see what some of those things were. It says in verse 6, Lot went outside. Now you notice, to meet them, and shut the door behind him and said, no, my friends, do not do this wicked thing. And this is where, what we have been discussing came in. He said he had 2 daughters that were virgins, and he offered to bring them out. Now, I think that's reprehensible, but, that's part of what's going on. But I think he was doing this, as I said before, to protect the travelers.
I have some audio. I have some audio. I have some audio on this part that is pretty good that we could listen to that might help all the people that are listening. I think it's pretty cool. Would you like to listen to that real quick?
Sure, please.
Okay, that way you can get a break too. Y'all take a listen to, again, as put on by the History Channel, and everybody says it is the most accurate depiction of the Bible and the most beautiful depiction. Here is exactly what we're talking about.
Sodom has become corrupt, a city of sin.
But my nephew Lot lives there. He has a family.
The outcry against Sodom is great. Its sins are very grave.
We're going to destroy it. The whole city. You are a just God. Will you destroy the good men along with the evil ones? What if there were 50 good people in Sodom? Will they suffer the same fate as the wicked? Please, help us!
We will test them. If my angels find 50 righteous people in Sodom, I will spare the whole city.
Please, help us.
He went this way!
Help us. Fewer. 30. 20. He would not destroy them, surely.
Down there!
Help us. This way. But if there were 10 righteous men in Sodom, would you not save them?
What? What are you doing? Who are these people?
They need our help. I'll do what I can for you.
Even if I find only 10, I will save the whole city.
This way! Open the door! Give us the strangers!
They are guests in my house.
Let them be! Take you to...
Step aside.
And God shows up.
We must go. Come on.
For Abraham's sake, the Lord is saving you.
I wish you... Have you ever seen this this miniseries, Mr. Solution? These angels are so badass. I love them.
You know, I have not, but I look forward to it.
You got to.
You know, I think they're doing a good job of depicting this here. But you know, Debbie, in verse 8, I think this is the clincher here. This is the authority where Lot says, "But don't do anything to these men, for they have come under the protection of my roof." So that was a very important law in that land, is that the traveler was you were responsible for them, period. You should give your life to save the life of someone under your roof. And I think that's what was being gotten at here. But you notice their response. So we have violence here. And this is what a lot of people don't recognize, is these were not innocent people. They say here, "Get out of the way," they replied, and now they're going to use abusive language. They say, "This fellow came here as a foreigner." So they're acknowledging that Lot was not one of them, and now he wants to play the judge. "We'll treat you worse than them." They kept bringing pressure on Lot and moved forward to break down the door. So these were violent people. These were not just people that were just minding their business and this kind of thing befell them. These people were very aggressive. They were assertive, and they were really precipitating the problem. In verse 10, it says, "But the men inside," obviously that's, I think, when we heard the groaning and moaning and crying out, they reached out and pulled Lot back in because they were going to hurt Lot in the house, and they shut the door, and then that's when they struck them with blindness. Now, obviously, that was a miracle. They were right there at the door, but they couldn't find the door, so they were, struck with confusion of some miraculous type. And now the other thing is that everyone could have abandoned that city, or they could have been righteous, and they chose to do neither. And we'll see here where it says, look in verse 14, So Lot went out and spoke to his sons-in-laws, these obviously betrothed to his daughters, who were pledged to marry his daughters. He said, hurry, get out of this place, because the Lord is about to destroy the city. But his sons-in-law thought he was joking. So they treated Lot like a fool. They didn't care. They didn't see any urgency. They probably said, who is the Lord? Right?
Exactly. I mean, I think they probably knew who he was, but I think they probably knew.
I'm sorry.
I think they probably knew who he was, but yet they just weren't buying into this.
Exactly. Was someone else about to? Did someone else want to present a position?
I don't know, David. Did you?
Yeah. Hey, David. What do you think?
Well, I don't.
Oh, this is little David.
Just trying to. Yeah. I don't really know what to think, honestly.
I'm glad you're listening. How old are you, David? How old are you?
13.
I mean, he broke up a little bit. Did he say 13?
C.
He said yes, 13.
I couldn't hear.
I'm sorry. He said yes. He actually said C, but he's 13. He's a really cute kid.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad he's listening. I think this is just fantastic. He's listening at that age.
Did you know about this, David, in the Bible?
It goes on to say, with the coming of dawn, they're giving this description. The angels urged Lot. Now Lot didn't want to leave, saying, "Hurry, take your wife." Now they couldn't destroy the city with Lot in it. I think this has become very clear. He says, "Take your wife and 2 daughters." Because the sons-in-laws aren't going. Forget it. End of issue. Take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here, or you will be swept away when the city is punished. And this is the punishment. He says, when he hesitated, the men, look at what had to happen. When he hesitated, the men grasped his hand and the hands of his wife and his 2 daughters, and led them safely out of the city, for the Lord was merciful to him. Because you see, Lot didn't want to go. None of them wanted to go. The scriptures point out in other places that Lot was righteous, and it vexed his soul to see what was going on, but, he was kind of committed to Sodom also. But we see here, it says, as soon as they had brought them out, one of them said, "Flee for your lives. Don't look back and don't stop anywhere in the plain. Flee to the mountains or you will be swept away." Notice again, it says, but Lot said, "No, my Lord." Look at this, stalling. "Please, your servant has found favor in your eyes, and you have shown great kindness to me in sparing my life. But I can't flee to the mountains. This disaster will overtake me, and I'll die." So Lot pleads with them to change their plans and let him go to this nearby city. I guess he says he can't run that fast to make it to the mountains, whatever. So we see Lot constantly stalling. They allow it, and they tell him to flee. Now, look, I think the important thing here is God ultimately will judge. And just like these people laughed at Lot, and I think the same thing people did that before the flood. People always laugh at God, but look what happens. You see, they got destroyed. And let me just pick out another high point here. As you said in verse 27, I think, early the next morning, Abram got up and returned to the place where he had stood before the Lord. He looked down toward Sodom and Gomorrah, toward all the land of the plain, and he saw dense smoke rising from the land, like smoke from a furnace. So the deed has been done. All of those people have perished. Only Lot and his 2 daughters. His wife started, but she didn't make it because she stalled, she looked back, and of course the debris field evidently took her life. She was killed. Verse 29, so when God destroyed the cities of the plain, he remembered Abraham and he brought Lot out of the catastrophe that overthrew the cities where Lot had lived. And, of course, we see here, now I say it was the plot of the daughters to do this. Now, Debbie, you take exception. I know it's horrendous, it's terrible, it's horrific, but this is what happened, and it's not sugar-coated. And as we said, the Moabites, I think, and the Ammonites were the constant were the constant nemesis of the Israelites. They battled, they warred with them on a continual basis. So this was not a good thing that these daughters and Lot, obviously he was there, so this was a really bad thing. So that pretty much completes chapter 19. Are there any comments, questions, observations, whatever?
We are smoking them tonight.
Yeah, that was really good, Mr. Solutions. You gave a very good synopsis of that, and I've learned a lot.
Well, David, thank you. But what do you think about this? Do you think God was wrong for doing this? I mean, did God not give ample opportunity for these people, number one, to change their ways? Number two, once the decision had been made to destroy the city, they didn't choose to get out and save their lives. So do you think God was wrong? Was God callous? I mean,
partially, yes, but then again, it's really hard to come up with a valid opinion and everything. It's like, because I know everyone has, what's it called? I don't want anyone, thinking I'm giving the wrong answer, or the wrong opinion. So I can't really make a valid opinion about that, because I'm still kind of hesitant on Genesis and everything, but I understood the last couple chapters. I was trying to follow along, but old Reuter called me on Skype and everything, and I had trouble really following, but I was trying to listen on top of taking care of old Reuter calling me.
Let me, and I appreciate that, David, but this question goes to both you and Debbie, just to give a little bit more of a human picture of this. Could this have been avoided? I mean, the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, could it have been avoided? And if so, how do you think it could have been avoided? I think we all believe it happened, but could it have been avoided, and how so?
Good question.
No, it couldn't have been avoided. Those people were horrible. They were horrendous people. I wish today he would still destroy some people. I wish he would come back today and pull another Sodom on some people.
Amen.
I mean, exactly. Victor said,
and you're right, but see, this is a foreshadowing of what can happen. Let me just tell you this. I read or I listen to the History Channel quite a bit. I enjoy that, and the Science Channel. And all the people, the scientists, they are predicting that some kind of object is going to strike the Earth, either a comet, an asteroid, or something else, but usually something from outer space. Planets like Jupiter, they absorb space debris so that it doesn't hit the Earth and impact the Earth and disrupt life on the Earth. But, regarding this, I think it could have been avoided because these people were doing something. God gave them an opportunity to change. But did they, like, say, for example, Lot's sons, he went to them and told them, you've got to get out of the city. And they thought he was a fool. They thought he was joking. They didn't take him seriously at all.
Exactly.
And so I think
he did what he had to do, and he actually acted upon it then.
Right, and I think the real point, I think, this has already happened. So this has happened, for lessons to us, that we can see this, and number one, avoid as much sin as we can, avoid being around bad people, identify bad people, and of course what these people were doing, it was called sin, and be sensitive to God, because I think that we can preserve our lives and our health and our wealth by practicing the right thing. I think that's very important.
Yes, it is.
So,
that's why they
rate,
say. That's why they say our bodies are a temple. When God says our bodies are a temple, and we have to treat it like a temple and be healthy and everything.
Yes, exactly. That's definitely true. And I think we see some great human sagas. We see some great human events. It's just, will anything move us? Will anything move us to a better position? Because, like I say, this information is presented to better us.
But I want to go out on a limb here. I want to go out on a limb here, Mr. Solution, and ask everybody listening, have you ever known anybody that has not lived the best life that even you have witnessed in your and you've seen something happen to them that seemed almost like punishment coming from some divine source? For example, I knew of a woman that fiercely, viciously broke up a home. She was what you call a home wrecker. She really was a home wrecker. She took these children and the husband out and just wined them, dined them, and convinced him that she was trash, and left this poor woman shattered, and to this day she cannot bear a child, and she has had miscarriage after miscarriage after miscarriage. Now, it's not for me to judge, but I often, as a human, still scratch my head and wonder if that's not something raining down on her as judgment. Do you know what I'm saying? I mean, I've seen...
Yes, I know what you're saying.
You know what I'm saying? And I'll admit it, I don't care, but I saw my own mother suffer and die a very early death, and it always made me wonder about it, because my mother was very brutal to me, and not only did she see the death of her youngest son, which was hard enough, but then she died just 5 years later. She mourned herself to death, and she suffered 13 heart attacks, starting at the age of 31.
Wow. I've never heard of someone having that many heart attacks.
And it used to make me wonder, I don't know. I mean, do you believe, Mr. Solution, that God still punishes even in this day and age? That he takes his hand and will slightly... I do. I mean, what does everybody think? God just quit after the Bible? He just quit appearing to people? He just quit speaking to people? He quit punishing? No. Everything is still going on, but people want to attribute it to something else, like bad luck or karma. They call it karma. They love saying all these new age words. Bullshit. I mean, I'm sorry.
Yeah, let me say it this way, Debbie. I think just like God built certain things into the genetic code, adaptation abilities, and obviously the miraculous working of our DNA and this sort of thing, I think God has created calamity for particularly repeated and unheeded violation of God's standards. Now, what mainly are we talking about? Just like you talked about the woman who was a home wrecker. That's wrong. That's hurting men, another woman, and the children, whatever children are in that family. So I think you definitely make an excellent point that we should be careful what we do. And if we don't, then, of course, there could be, consequences, appropriate or what we call commensurate consequences. And I believe God still punishes. I believe it's more so now. It's built into the inappropriate behavior that befalls people who constantly violates God's word. So yes, I believe God definitely punishes, definitely.
I know I punish in my chat room.
Let me say this. I think it's important to alert people because, see, the point is some people will avoid doing the wrong thing to save themselves and save the people that they would do the harm to. So that's like a twofer. And that's a good thing. And that's why it's so important to raise people's conscience, their awareness. And maybe if someone had raised this woman's consciousness of what she was doing wrong, that's what a good friend is always for, is to point out to another person that you're doing the wrong thing. You're doing something that's stupid, that's inappropriate, that is harmful. You need to stop doing that.
Right, that shows a true friend.
Did you hear about the lady with the 0.34 blood alcohol level? They said she was, she should have been dead. And so the various companies tried to get her to be a spokesman, and she said, no, I'm not going to support my bad behavior. I was spared. Now, 0.34, what is that, like 4 or 5 times the legal limit or more?
Yeah, I would say so. And it sounds like I'm surprised this woman could even drive at that.
Or even walk, David. She was approaching. She was approaching being a pickle.
Yeah, I'm surprised she didn't have alcohol poisoning and die.
Yeah, exactly. So, but we can. Did you hear about that, Debbie? The lady she went out on the football field and they tested her and she had like a 0.34 blood alcohol level.
No, I didn't. I took a bite or something.
Well,
no, I didn't. I haven't heard of that.
The news media was. Well, see, she could have died, but at least she learned. She said she's not going to do that anymore.
Right.
So I think it's good when we improve our behavior, and that's what the Bible is all about. It's about giving these examples, showing these mistakes that other people made, and how we might avoid it. So I think it's a great asset.
Yes,
but
it is.
In any event, we are at chapter 20, so if you want to delve into it, we can certainly
Debbie,
do so.
It sounds like you're eating Whataburger.
No, I'm eating leftovers from what I cooked for dinner.
Oh, what's that?
Well, Debbie is eating and didn't offer anyone any.
I'm sorry.
I know. So rude, Debbie.
What did you make? Spaghetti and sauce?
No, I made Mexican food.
Ooh, Olay.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds good.
Let me get enchiladas.
No, I cooked black beans, and I served it sort of like a buffet where you could make your own things, and some people made burritos, and some people made tacos, and some people made, just a bunch of stuff. We had some people over here watching football, so.
Oh,
all right.
Cool. On your 60-inch flat screen 3D TV?
Absolutely. You know it.
They have parents now in 3D now. If that's the case, I'm going to go out and pick up a 3D TV, like no joke.
All right, now we're going to hear about Abraham and Abimelech. I'm not sure how
what
to pronounce.
Chapter? We're on 20?
20. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah, that's Abraham and Abimelech.
You're so much better at these names. I hate you sometimes.
Yeah,
Genesis
it's like he's
20.
practiced these names.
Now Abraham moved on from there into the region of the Negev and lived between Kadesh and Shur. For a while he stayed in Gerar, and there Abraham said of his wife Sarah, "She is my sister." Then Abimelech, king of Gerar, sent for Sarah and took her. But God came to Abimelech in a dream one night and said to him, "You are as good as dead because of the woman you have taken. She is a married woman." Now Abimelech had not gone near her, so he said, "Lord, will you destroy an innocent nation? Did he not say to me, 'She is my sister'? And didn't she also say, 'He is my brother'? I have done this with a clear conscience and clean hands." Then God said to him in the dream, "Yes, I know you did this with a clear conscience, and so I have kept you from sinning against me. That is why I did not let you touch her. Now return the man's wife, for he is a prophet, and he will pray for you, and you will live." But if you do not return her, you may be sure that you and all who belong to you will die." Early the next morning Abimelech summoned all his officials, and when he told them all that had happened, they were very much afraid. Then Abimelech called Abraham in and said, "What have you done to us? How have I wronged you that you have brought such great guilt upon me and my kingdom? You have done things to me that should never be done." And Abimelech asked Abraham, "What was your reason for doing this?" Abraham replied, "I said to myself, there is surely no fear of God in this place, and they will kill me because of my wife. Besides, she really is my sister, the daughter of my father, though not of my mother, and she became my wife. And when God had me wander from my father's household, I said to her, 'This is how you can show your love to me. Everywhere we go, say of me, he is my brother.' Then Abimelech brought sheep and cattle, and male and female slaves, and gave them to Abraham, and he returned Sarah his wife to him. And Abimelech said, 'My land is before you, live wherever you like.' To Sarah he said, 'I am giving your brother 1,000 shekels of silver. This is to cover the offense against you before all who are with you. You are completely vindicated.' Then Abraham prayed to God, and God healed Abimelech his wife, and his female slaves, so they could have children again. For the Lord had kept all the women in Abimelech's household from conceiving because of Abraham's wife Sarah."
Now, this is very interesting here, what went on. Very, very interesting. And any observations? Does anything jump out and grab any of you before we...
No, go right ahead.
Just kind of breeze...
Victor and I are wanting to hear what you have to say about this.
Oh, okay. All right. So in verse 20, now it says that Abraham moved on from this particular place, and he lived between Kadesh and Shur, and he stayed in Gerar. This was a plan, and you'll see this with Isaac and his wife Rebekah, is that one of the things that these people would do, they didn't commit adultery, but they would commit murder. So what they would do, if a man had a woman, a wife, that they wanted, they would kill the man, you see. So Abram and Sarah had made this little pact that she would say she was his sister. And she was his half-sister, but because they had the same father but not the same mother. But that's not the point. She was really his wife. But, he did this to save his life. Now, some people will say, well, Abraham wasn't trusting God. Abraham was human. And maybe it wasn't always clear to him exactly how God was going to protect him. So Abraham improvised, and that's what this is here. This is he's improvising to really save his own life. But in verse 3, it says here, "But God came to Abimelech in a dream one night." Now we see at this particular point in time, God was using dreams to communicate with mankind. We did not have the complete record as we do today. So, he came to Abimelech in a dream, and he said to him, "You are as good as dead." That's a dream to receive. He says, "Because of the woman you have taken. She is a married woman." Now, Abimelech had no knowledge of that. And but he did. Let's be clear about this. Abimelech did precipitate his own problem. He was the cause of his own problem. And let's look at in verse 4. It says, "Now Abimelech had not gone near her," so he hadn't had any physical relations, but he had taken her into his harem, as it were. So he said, "Lord, will you destroy an innocent nation?" So God he didn't just come at Abimelech, he came at, Abimelech and Abimelech's entire nation, and it tells us that God had plagued them. He had punished them. They couldn't have any kids, and other great calamity had befallen them. And he says here in verse 5, did he not say to me, she is my sister? And didn't she also say, that is Sarah, he is my brother? I have done this with a clear conscience and clean hands. So in a way he had, but if you understand, in a way he hadn't, because Abraham felt threatened to have to, play this little game or concoct this little story, as it were. But it says here in verse 6, then God said to him in a dream, yes, I know you did this with a clear conscience, and so I've kept you from sinning against me. That is why I did not let you touch her. So God even says he was involved, that is, God was involved in preventing Abimelech from violating Sarah. Because remember, it's very important, Sarah is going to be the mother of Isaac. And it's very important that legal marriage, as it were, not be interfered with. Because God has plans for Abraham and Sarah. Verse 7, now return the man's wife, for he is a prophet, and he will pray for you, and you will live. So God had threatened this guy with nothing less than death. And he says, but if you do not return her, you may be sure that you and all who belong to you will die. And, of course, Abimelech, early the next morning, as you could imagine, I don't know if he got very much sleep, he summoned all his officials. And when he told them all that had happened, they were very much afraid, as you could imagine. It said, then Abimelech, of course, he calls Abraham in, and he says, what have you done to us? Have I wronged you, that you have brought such guilt upon me and my kingdom? You have done things to me that should never be done. Now, of course, Abimelech is standing up on his righteous soapbox, but he's not that righteous, trust me. Verse 10, and Abimelech asked Abraham, what was your reason for doing this? Now, Abraham is about to spill the beans now. He says, Abraham replied, I said to myself, there is surely no fear of God in this place. So that means that they're heathens, they're ungodly, they're not going to respect that which is proper. He says, and they will kill me because of my wife. Now, that's exactly it. Abram knew the custom. They wouldn't commit adultery, but if they killed the man, then, of course, the wife is free, right? That was their reasoning. That was true in Egypt, and that's true here now. And that's why he says, and I just reiterate, and they will kill me, that is Abraham, because of my wife. And that was Abraham's conviction, that if he said, this is my wife, they would kill him to get Sarah. But if he said, she's my sister, they would reward him and take the woman. So that's the reason Sarah and Abraham came up with this little plot. Verse
Exactly.
12,
you make a very good point there, Mr. Solution.
Mr. Solution, we have a call on the board from Skype. Let me take this call, interrupt you just for 1 second. Skype caller, you're on the air with us.
Sure. Of course.
Hello, how you doing?
Hey, is this Michael? How are you, Michael? What's going
Pretty
on?
good.
How are you?
Good. I'm seeing you guys on verse 20. Maybe I should call back another time, but you guys were talking about adultery and God saying something was a sin and killing. Maybe I'll just wait and listen or come back on next Sunday or when you come on, when you get to Genesis 38.
Well, go ahead.
Go
ahead. We can hop around.
Everything you just said.
No, we can.
Yeah, we were discussing
you
adultery here somewhat, murder, adultery, all kinds of sins.
Right. Right, but if you can go to Genesis 38, if you
would. You want us to go? So why don't you just read it and then give us your understanding?
Well, actually,
we'll see what happens.
Well, actually, I'm not at my computer. I'm not
I got it.
Do you have a Bible in hand?
I got it.
Okay, great.
Could you run through that to your computer, Debbie? Genesis 38.
Of course I can.
And,
It
and
says,
let's listen to that.
at the time, Judah left his brothers and went down to stay with a man of Adullam named Hirah. There Judah met with the daughter of a Canaanite man named Shua. He married her and made love to her. She became pregnant and gave birth to a son who was named Ir. She conceived again and gave birth to a son named Onan. She gave birth to still another son, and she named him Shelah. It was at Kazib that she gave birth to him. Judah got a wife for Ir, his firstborn, and her name was Tamar. But Ir, Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the Lord's sight, so the Lord put him to death. Then Judah said to Onan, "Sleep with your brother's wife, and fulfill your duty to her as brother-in-law to raise up offspring for your brother." But Onan knew that the child would not be his, so whenever he slept with his brother's wife, he spilled his semen on the ground to keep from providing offspring for his brother. What he did was wicked in the Lord's sight, so the Lord put him to death. Is that what you want to talk about?
Yeah. Continue to read on, but that's one point we can stop at. Now, read another. You can continue on.
Judah then said to his daughter-in-law Tamar, "Live as a widow in your father's household until my son Shelah grows up." For he thought he may die too, just like his brothers. So Tamar went to live in her father's household. After a long time, Judah's wife, the daughter of Shua, died. When Judah had recovered from his grief, he went up to Timnah to the men who were shearing the sheep, and his friend Hirah and the Adullamite went with him. When Tamar was told, "Your father-in-law is on his way to Timnah to shear the sheep," she took off her widow's clothes, covered herself with a veil to disguise herself, and then sat down at the entrance to Enam, which is on the road to Timnah. For she saw that though Shelah had now grown up, she had not been given to him as a wife. When Judah saw her, he thought she was a prostitute, for she had covered her face. Not realizing that she was his daughter-in-law, he went over to her by the roadside and said, "Come now and let me sleep with you." "And what will you give me to sleep with you?" she said. "I will give you a young goat from my flock." "Will you give me something as a pledge until you send it?" she asked. He said, "What pledge should I give you?" "Your seal and its cord and the staff in your hand," she answered. So he gave them to her and slept with her, and she became pregnant. After she left, she took off her veil and put on her widow's clothes again. Meanwhile, Judah sent the young goat by his friend, the Adullamite, in order to get his pledge back from the woman, but he did not find her. He asked the men who lived there, "Where is the shrine prostitute who was beside the road at Enam?" "There hasn't been any shrine prostitute here," they said. So he went back to Judah and said, "I didn't find her. Besides, the men who lived there said there hadn't been prostitutes there." Then Judah said, "Let her keep what she has, or we will become a laughingstock. After all, I did send her this young goat, but you didn't find her." About 3 months later, Judah was told, "Your daughter-in-law, Tamar, is guilty of prostitution, and as a result, she is now pregnant." Judah said, "Bring her out and have her burned to death." As she was being brought out, she sent a message to her father-in-law, "I am pregnant by the man who owns these. See if you recognize whose seal and cord and staff they are." Judah recognized them and said, "She is more righteous than I, since I wouldn't give her to my son Shelah, and he did not sleep with her again." When the time came for her to give birth, there were 2 twin boys in her womb. As she was giving birth, one of them put out his hand, so the midwife took a scarlet thread and tied it around his wrist and said, "This one came out first." But then when he drew his hand back in, his brother came out, and she said, "So this is how you have broken out," and his name was Perez. Then his brother who had the scarlet thread came out, and his name was Sarah. The end of chapter 38.
All right. So what did we learn from that? That's a lot of graphic sex there. Explaining that. But if you can go to one of the verses, the son didn't want to have sex with his brother because he felt wrong, but the father commanded the son, and the son would not ejaculate his sperm in her, and he put it on the ground. And he said it wasn't good in God's sight, and God killed the son for that. What do you guys think about that? He didn't want to commit adultery. He felt bad. The father told him to sleep with your brother's wife. The son said, I didn't want to do it. He put his semen on the ground. And God, and the Bible said, God, that was bad for the son to do that, and God put the son to death.
What Bible, what version of the Bible do you read?
No, that's in every version. Matter of fact, you can read another version daily, and I guarantee it says, and Perez, those two twins, if you go to Matthew, that's Jesus' grandfathers. Both of those sons is part of Jesus' lineage in the Old Testament. But what she just read, you can read in all types of Bibles.
Yeah, it's in all versions, David.
All right. So that I'm just bringing
sorry.
that point to what Mr. Lucia was talking about adultery.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I've just never heard that verse before, and didn't know what it was about. But
they don't want to
now
read,
I understand.
Right. I would never want to read that to because I never want to explain that to it. I mean, a teenager I probably would, but a child I wouldn't want to explain that verse to nobody. It's really graphic.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from with it being graphic, but the translation of it is what got to be the graphic part, I thought.
No. This isn't the tutorial. This is the tutorial. Actually, Genesis. This is not the first book that the quote unquote Jews wrote. It's Exodus was the first book that they ever wrote. But I'm just going back to what the discussion was, and brothers. But Debbie, I'm gonna be quiet, and I want to get y'all guys' feedback on that and what you just read.
I think what Michael is wondering is if you masturbate and blow your wad into a rag or whatever you want to call it. I mean, if I can be very gross and graphic here, is that a sin? And will God kill you for that? No. I don't believe it is, because I think that this was back in a time when God was dealing directly with some people and having some orders carried out and whatever. What do you think, Mr. Solution? I don't know. I'm kind of confused here about this. This is the first time I've ever really studied this exact portion of the Bible, to tell you the truth.
Debbie, the reason why, because there are many other verses that people who read the Bible, they will skip over these. They'll never read all of it to you. They'll skip, even in the New Testament, they'll skip over verses when they talk about what divorce is.
Right.
They'll skip over. That's why they'll never want to read those. But I'll listen, though.
Right.
Yeah, what he's talking about, there was a law in Jewish culture, and that's what I was saying earlier. It's so important to understand at least something about the culture that a particular work arises. What it was called a law of raising up children to one's brother. And the way that worked was because family was paramount. Family was extremely important, as it is in many cultures. So what would happen is, if a man was married if a man was married, he had a wife, and he died without children, then his brother was supposed to take his wife and raise up children.
Which is why you're not supposed to name your son after the father of the child. Did you know that?
Well, yeah, let me just complete this.
No.
Let me just complete this thought, if I may. See, like, okay, I'll just put it the way I put it initially. If the man who raised up children to his brother that didn't have any children, of course, he would deny himself the right to have children, because he would be raising children up in his brother's name. Onan did not want to do that. He did not want to follow that particular law. And we see that that was a very serious law, because when he violated it, the death penalty was enacted. So now a lot of people will mistakenly use that scripture to say, to speak to masturbation. In my estimation, the Bible says nothing about masturbation directly. Now, obviously, there are principles in the scripture that one could apply, but that is not a prohibition or a treatise on masturbation. That was called
what
raising
principle
up.
can you get out of that?
That was called raising up children to one's brother, which would deny the person who did that their own family. And Onan didn't want to sacrifice that. Now, what you read about Judah's son, when he became of age, he did not want to give his son, as he said he would do. That's what he didn't want to do. He didn't want his son to be with that woman. So what she did is she devised an elaborate plot. And remember, she got all the evidence because she would have been killed. Is someone trying to say something? I was just trying to.
Well, I think, Mr. Solution, you're avoiding the question now. Now you blame it all on the woman. The men did a lot of actions here, and you're saying we can get a lesson.
Every time there wasn't a question. There really wasn't a question asked. I didn't hear one. What was the question?
She said, "What did you think about what she read?" We were talking. You said adultery was sinful, and another thing. I want to go back because you also said what people did in Egypt at that time when they would kill their wives, and so they could commit adultery.
Could you stay on one question? You're kind of wobbling.
Okay, right. Okay,
You're
right.
wobbling all over the line here. Could you just ask one question at a time?
Okay,
I would appreciate that.
Mr. Lucy, you're making a fool of yourself. Okay.
What?
I'm very focused. I'm very focused. Yeah, come on. Don't get mad.
How is he making a fool of himself?
Genesis chapter 38.
Debbie, could you get the question? And
there wasn't a question. He just said to comment on the chapter. That's all.
Right, because you said he's avoiding. I'm gonna go ahead and mute myself. Go
what
ahead,
question do you have, Michael? What question? Michael, then talk to me.
My question is, okay, Debbie. My question is, Debbie, because I know he's getting mad. We were talking. I listened to y'all. He was talking about adultery. We read Genesis chapter 38. The son did not want to commit adultery with his brother's wife, and he put his semen on the ground. That had nothing to do about masturbation. He could have had sex with her, but didn't ejaculate in her. Okay, he put his semen on the ground, and God punished him and killed him for that. That's the question, and the question is, according to the adultery, that when you read Genesis chapter 38, what do you think about that, Mr. Solution?
That wasn't adultery. First of all, see, you're using the wrong terminology is the reason you're confusing yourself. Onan, that he would have been right for actually following through, that is, ejaculating inside of the woman. This is an adult show.
No, you wouldn't have. Okay, no, he wouldn't have, though. Michael,
let me finish the point.
Okay.
The reason you're confusing yourself is because you are misappropriating the terms. That wasn't adultery. The sin that he committed was to not go through with raising kids up in his brother's name. That was his sin, and the Bible is very clear. Debbie, do you mind reading that again if you can find it?
I'll do one better. It says, listen to me. Tamar had no children, and Onan was unmarried. There was an ancient custom for people in this situation. The family expected a dead man's brother to have sex with the dead man's widow. If a child was born, they accepted it as the dead man's child. It meant that the child would inherit instead of the brother. However, the brother was the child's actual father. Now, it's not clear whether people expected the brother to marry the widow. Perhaps they expected him to just have sex with her. But among the Israelites, the brother had to marry her. Sex between people who were not married was always wrong. Onan was evil because he was doing a wrong thing to Tamar. A wife or widow was ashamed if she had no children. Onan was not obeying God. God had told Onan's relatives to have large families, and also Onan was not even obeying his own father.
Right. And Debbie, to answer the question, he was supposed to marry her.
I'm letting you know that's immoral. And I want to go back to Egypt. In Egypt's law, Egypt, you can marry that. Now, this is fact. You can marry your sister, but they never had sex with their sister. The reason why they marry is, like you said, to keep the reigns into the dynasty, into families. But because you can have sister-in-laws and brothers-in-laws, but they never slept with each other. And what I'm saying is, you're looking at this story, and I'm talking about the son. He said he felt guilty in doing it. He didn't want to do it. 2 brothers did it, and God put them to death. That's all I wanted to make an observation. You guys have a nice day.
Well, Debbie, let's discuss that a minute. He got that all backwards, because the thing of it is, the brother was supposed to marry the dead brother's wife. Well, it wasn't a wife anymore, but he was supposed to marry what was the wife, of the brother who is now deceased, and raise children in that brother's name, so that brother's name would not be lost. But in so doing, he would give up the right to have his own kids. And Onan didn't want to do that. So
Mr.
he was
Solution,
violating.
Michael, although I do believe is a believer in God, I do believe that ever since we started this study, he wants to point out that God is very evil. He's very mean. The things that he does in the Bible are very cruel and horrible. And
what they're
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the first part. That's what Michael is attempting to do?
What did you say, David? Y'all talked over each other.
I said what they're trying to point out is not true. God is not evil. God, they're getting their perspectives wrong.
Exactly. But Michael's done this before. He's called in and said, things about God and things that he's done in the Bible. He called earlier in the book of Genesis and started saying some things about how God, did this, and he thought it was horrible that he killed the people in the flood. Don't you remember that, Mr. Solution?
I do, and maybe someone will pray for Michael, but see, Michael's problem is he doesn't understand. First of all, Michael is not the supreme ruler of the universe. And moreover, Michael doesn't understand the text. He gets it all twisted. Mm-hmm. Because as you said, Debbie, you made it, in fact, you said it a little bit more, you said it more clear than I did, is that Tamar would have been a single woman now, and Onan was a single man. Mm-hmm. Right?
Exactly. Uh-huh.
So there was no adultery involved. That's silly.
No, he's wrong. He's not looking at the text and reading it as thoroughly as we are. But I like Michael. I don't have anything against Michael. But
I do too. But what that's called in biblical interpretation, what Michael does instead of exegeting, that is lifting what is in the text out accurately, he eisegetes. He reads into the text.
Exactly. That's what my grandmother said. Do not do that. Pull from the Bible, Deborah. Don't put into the Bible. Exactly.
He puts into the text his own confusion. And that's the reason he remains confused.
And another thing is
arrogance in that he's not willing to listen and learn better.
And he's
not even interpreting the text properly. How do you get adultery out of 2 single people?
And another thing is we are not supposed to question anything that God does. God is very mysterious, very mysterious. We're not to question it.
Well, Debbie, wait a minute. No. We definitely, God says, come let us reason together. So we can, in other words, we're not supposed to disrespectfully, engage. But open and honest answers, the Bible loves it because it explains itself.
Right. True.
All a person has to do is read it.
Exactly.
And so from Michael's standpoint, for him to say there's adultery when you have 2 single people, how is that? That's impossible.
I don't know.
And the only thing there could be is fornication. Adultery deals with married people. If your spouse is dead, guess what? You're not married to them anymore. Death breaks the marital bond.
Right. That's why it's stating thou shalt not commit adultery when you're married and everything. And that means don't go over to your neighbor's house and carry on when you're married.
Yes, exactly. David.
Yeah.
And it also says until death do us part.
Exactly. In sickness and in health.
Until death. Wait a minute. Repeat that, Debbie.
Till death do us part.
What does death do? Part you.
Yeah, so don't forget, everybody, that it's a Land Cruiser. You can grease the brakes. No, I'm joking. I'm joking, baby. He's laughing.
Oh, your brakes need greasing. No, but, some people, and I like Michael too, but Michael really sows confusion. He does not, what do you call it? He does not demonstrate integrity to the text. He comes away with adultery occurring between two unmarried people. That's just not right. So at any rate, shifting, but we do appreciate Michael's questions, regardless as to, what their origins are.
Yes, they're very objective. Mm-hmm. They're very good questions. They're very good questions and objective, and it brings on a good conversation.
Wait a minute. Deshaun is confused. Do you want to talk about what Deshaun is asking in the thing? He's got a legitimate question, and he says, what if I cannot get married until late and I die without having children? He's kind of confused, so let's go back over this and tell Deshaun. Deshaun's an angel. He's a sweetheart, and he's confused, okay? He says, I'm glad that I did not live during those times. I would have been dead just for thinking about another woman, okay? And then he says, it's hard for me now what I am not even allowed to think about Debbie. He says, I'm confused. And then he says, so what if I cannot even get married until late and I die without having children? And he goes, I'm still lost, Mr. Solution.
Wait a minute, I'm not. So what's his question?
Yeah, what exactly
what's the question there? I didn't
what are
quite
you lost
capture
about? What are you lost about, Deshaun? Are you afraid that you're ordered to have children? And
that's what I think he's like wondering if he's supposed to have kids.
Okay. Well, you know what they say, in a man's life, 3 things must get done: plant a tree, take a wife, and give the world a son. Sorry, that was just a joke, but it's a little.
Amen.
So, is that what you want to know, Dash?
That's good. That's good, Debbie.
He can't bear a child, then.
Well,
I think that comes under the heading of choice.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because no one can force you to have children. Well, I don't know. I could be talking out of my rear right now, but
No. That usually means Mr. Solution is reading something, or he's doing something that has to. He's researching a question to give an answer or something.
No. I'm listening at this particular point because I said I could elaborate, but whether or not to have children, I mean that's a high choice. That's
yes, it is.
Obviously, it's a great obligation. I think the Department of Agriculture came out recently and said that to raise a child from 0 to 18 is about $250,000, $250,000, and but that's a person's choice. Now, if you feel some sort of if one feels some sort of conviction or compulsion to have a child, maybe they need to talk with a counselor, an advisor, a priest, or a minister, and just lay their case out to them. But as we're dealing with it right now, that comes under the heading of one's choice. So it's, that's what I understand that to be. Do you feel the same way, Debbie, or not?
I'm trying to add Deshaun right now, but he keeps calling me. Every time he calls me, I can't add him. So there we go. I think I got him this time. Here comes Deshaun, so he's a sweetheart. There he is.
Hey, I just want to clarify that question. What I was saying was, what if I can't get married? Say, like, if I never found the real wife and I die without having children, without getting married, then, what, would I be punished for it? That's the part where I'm lost. And then, say, like, I only have a Spreaker wife, Debbie, and if I think about her, will God kill me just for that?
No, darling, no. No. God would never punish you for that. That's silly.
That's something so small to punish you for.
Yes.
You know?
I don't believe that God made any sort of a law about getting married and having children.
He never did.
No, I don't
never
believe he did. Do you, Mr. Solution?
Me neither.
Well, no, it's now to the first couple, to Adam and Eve, they were the first people, and there were no others. So obviously God gave them a command: be fruitful and multiply. But remember, we have about six plus billion people on the earth today. So it's purely
We're gonna
volitional.
hit 8 billion in 2015.
What's that? What was the statement? I'm sorry.
We're going to hit 8 billion in 2015.
8 billion, sir.
Wait a minute, 830 billion?
No, 8 billion.
8 billion? I'm
Yes.
sorry, 8 billion?
Yes. David's a genius.
Wow.
Wow.
No, it's at the U.S. Population, U.S. Census. It's at uscensus.org, and I think they will point out. But I think it's about six plus billion right now. So in other words, no one is under compulsion to have children. There are plenty of people having children. In fact, you can see people as they're born. You'll see the numbers increase if you go to the uscensus.org.
Doesn't that get updated daily? Because people are having babies every day somewhere.
Yeah, it gets updated immediately.
It's updated every second. Yeah, David, it's it's updated every second, David.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, it's updated continually.
Hey, Deshaun says he has another comment.
Yeah, I didn't want to...
Okay, what's the other comment? I think we've put that to rest.
Yeah, I just want to say that I wouldn't mind having children, because when I do get married, I want to have a family, and I just want to do what's right for my family and what's right for the kids as well as my wife.
I want to clarify that I was wrong. It's not 2015, it's 2024 that will hit 8 billion.
But do you know what it is right now?
7,191,897,132.
So, okay, 7 plus billion. Wow, that's a lot of people on the planet.
Isn't a billion 1,000 millions?
Correct.
Damn.
Wow.
Son of a bitch.
That is a lot.
Think about if 1 billion is 1,000 millions, 1,000 millions, okay? And we're up to 7 billion. That would be 7,000 million people.
It's only 12/17, and almost 2,000 people have died already. That's crazy.
Man.
But almost 5,000 people have been born. So as you can tell, more people are being born than people die. So that's a good thing.
That's a good thing.
That's a very good thing, because more life than deaths means something's right.
The race survives.
Right.
Exactly.
But see, when the world becomes too populated, what's going to happen? There's going to be no room for farms. There's going to be no room for nothing. What are we going to do? And
Area code Skype and area code 925. You're both on the air with us.
Yes, Debbie, you guys are confusing me.
Good evening.
I was
Good
very
evening.
clear.
There's no need to be confused, because I don't have solutions, but I have some answers. The facts are that 330 people are born each day, and 250,000 people die each day. So the race is in no danger of disappearing. In fact, there's too many people on Earth.
But you said 250.
In my opinion.
What was it again? You said 300 people were born in...
330,000 people are born each day, and each day 250,000 people die. That's why I don't get excited when somebody dies.
I love you. I don't get excited.
But of course, births, they can be a beautiful thing. But dying is a pretty common thing. It happens 250,000 times a day.
Yes, it does.
to the gentleman that said, what happens if you don't get married or don't have a child in your lifetime? You win. You win. You avoided a huge amount of aggravation, considering the fact that most marriages, well, at least 50% end in divorce, not to mention the marriages that stay together where the man or the woman is unhappy or compromised or miserable. I think you've won. I think you've won. I think raising children is a very tricky proposition.
Okay, I'm sorry. Can I jump in? May I?
Sure. But that's my personal opinion. That's the way I've decided to live my life, and I have no regrets. I'm happy about this.
Yeah, I've been single all my life, but I wanted to get married. Now I'm thankful that I have an internet wife. Debbie took me in, but I also want to experience the real life. I want to experience the real family. I don't want to be single until I die. That's no good. At least to me. That's me.
I think most people feel that way.
I have a solution for you. It's 2 words. Just get laid.
I really want to get married, though.
A lot of people don't want to have sex until they get married, and that's
exactly, yes. Very good point, David. Very good point.
So when do you go to the car lot and just pick out a car and buy it without driving it out? Without test driving it? How do you know how the car drives? What if you get a lemon? Never mind.
That's why you go on dates and to feel it out to see if that is the right person or not.
Date's a 4-letter word.
Excuse me, you still could date and then still have fun. It's still the right way to find true happiness.
Who says the right way? The right
difference. There's
a marriage is just a commitment between 2 people, basically.
Oh, it's Mike. Hey,
See,
Mike.
You're married before you even go downtown and say these vows that's not even written in the Bible. But you say these vows and you just get a certificate. But before that, 2 people should be married before the paperwork is even considered. But if you say you're never going to be married, every relationship you enter into, you eventually want to end because you don't want it to last.
Well, I think a date is a much better way of getting a relationship than just going and having sex with a person right
off
the bat.
Saying, wham, bam, thank you, man.
What's wrong with having sex?
The next one.
No, if the sex isn't good, the relationship or the marriage doesn't last.
I never said there was anything wrong with sex.
Yes, sex is good, but not with a bunch of women just...
Yeah, why not? What's wrong with you? Why not? Why wouldn't you want to have at least protected sex or where at least some type of safe sex? Why wouldn't you want to have sex, especially when you're young, with as many women as possible?
I would have to know her first, and I'd have to actually
because I don't, because I have a girlfriend.
But you're going to have protected sex for the rest of your life? You're going to have protected sex for the rest of your life? Protected sex is the most unnatural thing.
It's better once you're in a committed relationship, I think, to throw the condoms away. I agree with you.
I'm in a committed relationship.
Right. Now, hold on. Now, you said the magic word. You said it's better in a committed relationship. But people who say, for me, people who say that they don't believe in marriage, they cannot believe in a committed relationship because every time they get close to somebody...
That's not true, because I don't believe in marriage. I never get married. But I also would prefer to be in a committed relationship with someone just because the fact that unprotected sex is better and that 2 mature adults can work out that type of agreement. And that's just the way that it is with me. So marriage is something that I never wanted to do, would never consider. I can't understand why someone would have to have a legal contract to bind someone to someone financially. You become one entity legally. You have to court to get out of it. That is a marriage.
No, it's not. See, to me, marriage is between those 2 because before that house and all that paperwork, before all that big wedding, those 2 people, they're going to keep each other together. So the commitment of those 2 human beings Forget the certificate. They have a commitment together. That's a marriage. But when you say that you believe in a committed relationship, but then you say that you never want to get married on having a long relationship, eventually you're saying that the committed relationships that you get into, eventually they will dissolve.
That's reality. Let me ask you this. How many you're almost 40, you're almost 40 years old, Mike. You're almost 40 years old. I would say that you've had at least 5 or 6 serious girlfriends in your years.
Okay,
probably more.
Yes.
And each of them have ended. That's just reality. That's just the way that it is.
Right.
So that's just
and
the way
one
that it
thing
is.
I can say, the reason why they have ended because of my mindset and their mindset.
It takes 2 to tango.
That's a fact.
Things aren't supposed to be forever. I don't think it's
Right
intended
now,
to
I'm
be
getting
forever.
older
I
and
think
I'm
people
learning about myself and other people.
Excuse me,
and I know what I want.
That's your opinion.
There have been marriages that.
But it works for me, and I've had more pussy
Right,
than a little
no one's
bit.
trying to change you. Right,
All right,
no
I'm
one is
just
trying
talking
to
about
change
for
you,
me.
but
I
you
know
have
that
to
I'm
be clear
unique.
about. Right, but see, you have to be clear about what you're saying. You cannot say that you believe in committed relationships. That's all I'm saying. You have to be consistent. If you say you never visualize yourself being married, you cannot consider yourself being in a long, committed relationship with another person.
We don't believe.
That's all
a lot
I'm
of us
saying.
here don't believe in having sex with random women. I know I don't. I don't think David does. I'm almost certain Deshton doesn't either.
Man, it's not
I'm not trying
necessarily
to change
random.
your business.
Not random women, hot women. You know, random women can be anything. But good-looking women, attractive women, sexy women.
Right.
You know, women with
don't
something
have to
on the
be
ball.
married to have
Women
sex.
with a real
Most-
nice shape. Let's be for real here.
90%
What you guys really need,
Wow.
the gentlemen they're speaking, except Mike, because I know Mike knows how to get some vagina. Okay.
I know how to get vagina. I just don't choose to.
We
I
all
choose
know how to
to
get it.
find. I have a girlfriend and
95%
I'm happy
of the
with
people
her.
have
What's your girlfriend's name? Quick.
Why?
Quick.
Why do you want to know her name?
What's your quick? Because you don't have a girlfriend. Don't bullshit.
Yes, I do.
Her
name is Brittany.
What's her name?
And
What's
yes,
her name?
I
Quick.
do.
Quick.
Sometimes.
What's her name?
No,
Quick.
sometimes
What's her name?
Her name is Brittany,
Quick.
and we've been dating.
Quick.
Exactly.
Quick.
Exactly.
You ain't got no girlfriend. You ain't getting no pussy.
Right. If
I
you
can tell you're not getting any pussy.
Exactly. You can never quit.
Damn, dude.
You call that thing out.
It's all right. It's cool. But you can take some game lessons. And I will be starting a show on game lessons. And it's how to conquer a woman. See, any dog can chase the cat. Any man can chase a woman. I'll be giving lessons on how to make the woman chase you.
Conquer? When you are you one of those people that believe that all women should be slaves? Because I don't believe in that. That's wrong. When you say the word conquer, that pretty much is another way of saying enslave.
Okay. Mommy's here. Here we go. Number 1, he does have a girlfriend. I've met her. Number 2, don't come on here and start pimping your own show. Number 3, I believe these guys are right. They don't want to learn how to have sex with women. It's wrong. It's nasty. It's wrong. Okay, they're right. And yes, David's got a beautiful girlfriend.
Thank you, Debbie.
Damn. Shut up.
And I'm glad that I have a beautiful internet wife.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do, Deshaun. Area code 909. What says you? So they say. I hope you're not another fighter.
No. I was just wanting to make a comment regarding the intertwining between male and female relations in terms of what marriage really signifies. If you go into the Bible, I mean, when you look at the way the chronology and the genealogy is, it's based on a solid line of marriages, so you can be able to go back and trace family lines before the paperwork and law came to being. This is what, then God said multiply and be fruitful. I mean, that's pretty much what I want to say.
Let me just recommend that we finish out. We're on verse 11 in chapter 20. So if you like, I see that people want to have discourse. So I suggest we finish this up, and then if it stimulates ideas, fine. If not, they can
Well,
I don't know
real
if you were
quick,
just letting them have a free for
Listen, real quick, you guys were talking about me. I just want to get comment. We were talking about premarital sex just now, but Genesis chapter 38 condones premarital sex. The man did not want to have the sex with the woman, and God killed the man. Now, you saying that I'm saying God is evil. I'm just saying, look at the story, and I'm saying you're saying that he should obey his father and had sex with a woman that he did not want to have, and God killed him for that. That's premarital sex. Now, you were right. It's not about adultery, but I was looking at the act of what's going on in this culture. So that's what I want to make myself clear on the story that we were talking about. Thank you.
But, Michael, you're wrong about what you were saying. First of all, he was married to her, but he didn't want to raise children up to her. So I suggest that what you do is I recommend Matthew Henry's commentary. And you can actually look that up and read a little bit about that so you would inform yourself on the...
No, I don't.
Let me finish, Michael, so you could...
myself.
So
I
could
can
you
comprehend myself. It said he did not obey God. God killed, and the law killed him because he would not put his semen in that woman.
Got that, but what
That's
happens
the
is
story
you don't
says,
understand the
factually.
context of that. You're
No, I
missing
do
a lot of
understand the
information.
context. I do. No, I'm not. I can read it. Look, you said that's God's words. Why do I have to
Michael,
run to another book?
You win.
To get,
You win.
No. You said people always say, read God's word for yourself. We read that chapter, and you telling me go to another man's book who wrote his theory on what I'm reading. I'm saying I'm reading it, and everyone clearly says that when the two brothers did not want to do it, and they put their semen on the ground, God killed them for that act. And y'all say that I say y'all God wrong, and just like I'm saying, the man is confused. He don't know if he can have children or not. That's all I wanted to ask, because you're going to have to get to that chapter and explain it anyway.
That's true, Michael. But Michael, you are mistaken in the conclusions that you're drawing. You're very much mistaken. And all I'm telling you to do is be a little bit more informed about the culture. That's very important. See, the book was written in a particular context, and you don't understand the context. That's why you're missing the point.
We have a new Skype caller on the air with us. New Skype caller, you're on the air.
Oh, my line had dropped, but I heard myself being admonished. I'm not starting a show. That was a joke.
Oh, okay.
Everything was a joke.
All right, I never know when you're joking. You sounded serious, you mullet. You sounded serious.
How's it going?
I'm spectacular. You have to know with me, it's a joke first.
Is everything a joke?
I enjoyed laughter.
Is everything a joke that you say? So I should take nothing that you say serious?
Yeah, it's hard to tell sometimes.
In this forum, you shouldn't take anything I say seriously. I don't take anything anyone else says.
Well, you can take what I say serious.
Well, I won't.
Well, then don't.
But that's my privilege.
All right, shut up.
All right. So, I kicked ass on. I can beat anybody on BTR and Jeopardy in those trivia questions.
Blow me. No, you can't. You're just talking shit. Well, actually, you did. No. Wait. I take that back. He was badass, Mr. Solution. He killed him.
Yes, he did. He's
was
a genius.
He did, Mr. Solutions. He blew us away when I played Jeopardy the other night, and he was like, he got every question right.
Well,
Jeopardy.
I missed
that's
a couple.
A good game.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Wait a minute, this is for you, Brown. That's a bong.
You gotta love your sound.
So,
thank you.
What do you want to do, Mr. Solution? We have 26 minutes left on both.
I want to close out chapter 20, and then, of course, we can commence at 21 on the next series.
Excellent.
Are you guys going to cover the whole Bible eventually? That's the goal?
We might.
Well, that's a tall order. We're just doing... Actually, Debbie, we've gone over in Genesis. I think we said we were going to test the first, 6 chapters, and we just kind of continued.
We can't stop. I mean, there's too many people there's people relying on this that you haven't even heard from out there. My family listens to this.
I even listen to it, and the numbers do speak volume.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Numbers are
Hey, the word will not return void.
Bingo.
No. Exactly.
I gotta say,
Okay, let's just finish up with chapter 20, and then Debbie, you can take it in whichever direction. Verse 11 of chapter 20, and we're just reiterating. Abimelech was not as righteous as he pretended to be. And the proof of that is what Abraham is going to reveal right now. In verse 11, Abram replied, because Abimelech asked this self-righteous question, and Abimelech, this is in verse 10, I'm sorry. It says, and Abimelech, he was the king of that area, asked Abraham, what was your reason for doing this? That is, saying that Sarah was his sister instead of saying that Sarah was his wife. And Abraham replied in verse 11, I said to myself, there is surely no fear of God in this place, and they will kill me because of my wife. Now, what he means there is they will kill him for his wife. That is, they will kill him and take his wife. They didn't believe in adultery, but murder was okay. So verse 12 says, Abraham continues, besides, she really is my sister. Now, Abram is equivocating now because he's deviating from the question. Besides, she really is my sister, the daughter of my father, though not of my mother. So he's saying that Sarah is fathered both him and Sarah, but through different mothers. And he says here, and she became my wife. Verse 13, and when God had me wander from my father's household, I said to her, this is how you can show your love to me. Everywhere we go, say of me, he is my brother. And that's because Abram knew the customs in that land. Verse 14, then Abimelech brought sheep and cattle and male and female slaves and gave them to Abraham. And he returned Sarah, his wife, to him. And Abimelech said, my land is before you. Live wherever you like. In other words, get out. Verse 16, to Sarah he said, I'm giving your brother 1,000 shekels of silver. Now, we can surmise that's a handsome sum of money right there. This is to cover the offense against you before all who are with you. You are completely vindicated. And verse 17 says, then Abraham prayed to God, and God healed Abimelech, his wife, and his female slaves, so they could have children again. For the Lord had kept all the women in Abimelech's household from conceiving because of Abram's wife Sarah. So God was punishing them. It was palpable. It was noted. It was documented. And that particular punishment was released upon Abimelech, King Abimelech's admission and his paying like a fine. And then, of course, Abraham asked God to...
let me interrupt you, Mr. Solution. Let me interrupt you. There's somebody in the chat room that says that you are decontextualizing the Bible, making it sound like bribes.
Making it sound like what, I'm sorry?
B-R-I-B-E-S. A bribe.
Well, that's ambiguous. We see money exchanging. Look at verse 16. To Sarah, he said... This is Abimelech, King Abimelech. Mm-hmm. I'm giving your brother 1,000 shekels of silver. This is to cover the offense against you before all who are with you. All right? So he's paying for the, the pain and suffering and the defamation.
Right.
You are completely vindicated.
Right.
And this is the king doing that. The king is an autocrat. He has the authority to do this, and he's doing it.
Sounds more like compensation for a wrong. It's righting a wrong. It doesn't sound like a bribe.
Okay, this person says rubbish. Okay, person that's saying rubbish, can you give us quickly in the chat room why you believe this to be rubbish? How do you see this is what I'm asking.
Because he before going into the facts of the Bible,
Is this
and just
you?
letting the chips fall where they may. Yes, this is me, ma'am. How are you?
Oh, hi. How are you?
I'm fine. Before he, oftentimes we get so caught up in trying to define things first without going into what the Bible actually says. Abraham knew.
How do you see it
customs
then?
would be a problem. He obviously knew it was going to be a problem because in the context in which he referred to his sister being his wife, and why they would kill him. Not, if they wanted his wife in terms of her beauty, he would have stated it in that context, but he didn't. Then the king coming in and basically, here, take this. That's a bribe in the sense to basically either get out of town or don't be practicing these customs around these people.
So basically, you saying that? No, basically, he's saying they wanted him out there for another reason, and you're saying they're customs, not because of they wanted him for sex or marry or take his wife. They wanted because the type of people that they were, basically.
Yes.
Okay.
Because remember, when you go into the context of the Bible, these are pastoral people, meaning they're herders and co-herders and things of this nature, and they're not agriculturalists.
Well, it's out of date with, regular, archaeology time, but I understand what you're saying, though, so they may have because Mr. Solution did, he's over-textualizing me saying because of his beauty, because he's adding his, you just have to stick with what it is. And it may have been that, though, sir. I
Right. The reason I said decontextualize is because oftentimes, whether we're parenting or to protect somebody's interest or ego, we'll hide or selectively pick about what history we want to talk about. When we do that, we can cause more harm than good because the person will take a mythology in the form to replace that what they don't know in terms of the history.
Which is why we open the lines. We open the lines up for anybody else to call in and give their opinion. Mr. Solution, are you there?
Yes.
Okay. Did you have anything to add to what he was saying? I believe he was sort of talking to you, actually.
Well, I didn't get the gist of what he was saying. Did you understand what his point was? What's his actual point?
Sir, he's talking to you.
Before,
you basically said you're adding things and taking liberties
defining
with
or
the
adding or
scripture.
taking out what the story
taking
says.
Taking liberties with the scripture and putting your own twist on it.
Right.
Okay,
That's basically what he's saying.
One of my functions is to assist in explaining a book that a lot of people consider very complicated. Now, let's go to the particular scripture and give me the citation that you feel I'm incorrect on. I was going verse by verse. So what is it that you feel that I misinterpreted?
Can you reread that verse about Abraham defining or explaining his wife and being his sister? Please, sir.
Okay. Would you like me to, Mr. Salouche?
Wait a minute.
It says, Abraham moved on from there into the region of the Negev and lived between Kadesh and Shur. For a while he stayed in Gerar, and there Abraham said of his wife, Sarah, "She is my sister." Then Abimelech, king of Gerar, sent for Sarah and took her.
Okay, verse 11 is the one that gives a little bit more comprehensive explanation of it.
It says, Abraham replied, I said to myself, there is surely no fear of God in this place, and they will kill me because of my wife. Besides, she really is my sister, the daughter of my father, though not of my mother. She was actually his half-sister, okay? They had the same father, but two different mothers.
Exactly. And now hold it right there. He's making that in relation to his wife not being beautiful and having to worry about someone taking her because she's beautiful. No, because of the relationship of her being his sister as well as his wife.
No, that's not the first point. Let's go back to the first point. The first point is this. Notice where he says in verse 11.
Besides, she really is my sister.
Now, wait, hold on a moment, sir. It says in verse 11, and I'm just going about halfway the scripture, and they will kill me because of my wife. In other words, they will kill him in order to take his wife. If he said it was his wife instead of his sister, they had no problem with murder. They wouldn't commit adultery, right? In other words, they wouldn't take a man's wife while he was living. But if they killed him, which they would do. And notice what Abram says. When he says in verse 11, when he said in verse 11, there is surely no fear of God in this place. So what he's saying about these particular people are they're heathens. They have no laws that protect human civil rights. And so they would have killed him. They would have taken his life in order to take his wife. And so he and Sarah made a pact when they set out from Ur of Chaldees that he would say, this is my sister, and she would say, this is my brother. That was to save Abraham's life.
Well, what if Abraham would have said, this is my sister and my wife? Would they look down upon how he married his half-sister?
Darling, that's what if. I don't know. I don't know.
No, because
let me answer this. That's okay. What they're saying is fine. I'll go ahead and answer that.
Hold up, because there's 10 cases of incest in the Bible.
Hold on. You ask a question. I'm going to answer this for you, if I may.
Okay.
Yeah. He had said, this is my sister and my wife. Wife was his death knell. Because, see, the whole point is for the other culture, this was a king in this setting, to take the woman. If it was his sister, there was no real issue because, but if it was his wife, if he said wife, now they had to kill him. Because under their heathen culture, it was wrong to commit adultery, but it was okay to murder. So they had no problem with that. You see how bass-backwards and screwed up their morals were?
Yeah, that's more screwed up than having sex with your sister. Maybe.
Right. Well, that's what the text is saying here. And Abraham is making
this point. Very clever. That means very clever how you did that.
But you said back then during during Abraham, many cultures said killing was illegal.
Right. Well, murder. They would commit murder. But look here, Isaac. You will see Abraham's son
or his wife if they wanted to get at him in that kind of fashion. That's what I'm saying. If they were that heathen or savage, it wouldn't make a difference. They wouldn't draw a line between his wife or his sister.
Well, that's not true. First of all, you're wrong about that. Because if you read the text, now see, why are you saying that? What authority do you have for saying what you just said?
Because you're saying they're moral. First you're saying they're immoral, but then they're moral.
Michael, I asked a question of the gentleman who said it. Now, he said it wouldn't matter.
Meaning when you state the word that this is how ass backwards, I'm listening to what you said, right?
I didn't say that. I said
people are the lowly of the low. Okay, well you gave a reference to put in my mind these are the lowly of lowly, right? These were lowly people, right? Very lowly, right?
Well, notice what Abram says. I'll give you his exact words. And I hope you guys have scriptures so you're just not arguing in the air and you can go back to this. What Abram said in verse 11, Abraham replied to the king, Abimelech, he said, I said to myself, there is surely no fear of God in this place. So he's saying, I can't reason with these people because they behave insanely.
And they will kill me because of my wife.
Yeah, they would have.
What is the relationship? What's wrong with your wife? She's my sister.
Well, okay, look. What
exactly.
This is history, and if you want to dispute it, it's obviously your option.
Well,
I'm going with the text, though. I'm going to go with the text.
Right, but according to that, you said this is archaeological fact, but according to the Bible, the world is about 6,000 years old. But according to
Michael, let's just say this. I'm not going to engage in a discussion that has nothing to do with the scriptures themselves.
Okay, can I read it? Can I read exactly what those two verses again?
Okay.
Where Abraham said, because I thought surely there is
no fear of God in this place. And they will kill me, man, because of my wife. Besides, she actually is my sister, the daughter of my father. But not, he's trying to explain that she's not my full sister. She's really like my half. He's explaining that context in that fashion.
That sounds almost exactly like what. That sounds almost exactly like what Mr. Solution said.
Yeah. See what? Thank you, Beasley. What happens is, gentlemen, you have to understand this in the context. The fact that she was his sister, the fact that she was his sister or his half sister is not the point. Because that's not the issue.
Why did he say
exactly? Why did he say that, sir? Right. The reason why Abraham reiterated, he said it to himself.
People probably didn't care if it was his full or half sister.
Well, what it sounds like.
Situation. No, because he's repeating the whole. Abraham is repeating the whole situation in his head, and he's saying the situation that is, they would not accept it. And since they will not accept it, they're not quote unquote godly people, and they're going to react in a crazy way. So I'm saying,
gentlemen, let me back up and try this one more time.
Okay. May I say something real quick? I think what he's objecting to, Mr. Solutions, and I've been listening closely instead of talking for a change. I think what he's objecting to is your explanation. Okay. And what your explanation was, that's what I think he's objecting to. That your explanation that they didn't think, murder was that big of a deal, but adultery was something they probably would, they would kill before they committed the crime of adultery. And I think
and I'll read the text again. That's exactly what it says. When Abraham answered the king asked in verse 10, and Abimelech asked Abraham, what was your reason for doing this? That is, saying that she was your sister. Abraham replied, I said to myself, there is surely no fear of God in this place. That's number one. And they will kill me because of my wife. In other words, they would kill him to get his wife. They would take possession of his wife by killing him. And so in order to circumvent that, he would say, she's my sister, which wasn't the point, because she was his wife.
Why does he emphasize besides? She actually is my sister.
Oh,
and it came about when God caused me to wonder. He's explaining himself. And it came about when God caused to wander from my father's house, that I said to her.
By explaining that she is his sister, that is his trump card to get out of being killed. See, the fact is she's his wife. The fact that she's his wife trumps the fact that she's his sister.
How?
And he doesn't want to say that she's his wife because they'll kill him. At least that's the way it was then. So, anyway, I think we've sort of
across a man, sir, if you came across a man, sir, who was married to his sister, and wasn't open about it, but referred to
I don't know what point you guys are really trying to gather on this. But I would suggest to you that this whole story leads to the Savior, the person of Christ. And so the real point is, have you exercised faith in Christ? You could get all of this stuff right and miss Christ and lose your life. Because Christ said, what shall it profit a man if he shall gain the whole world and lose his soul? So it's very important to understand priority. It's very crucial.
Very true.
Oh, okay.
Very true. Basically, what I think he's saying is he was saying, yeah, this, that, and the other, I lied and all that stuff, but she really is my sister. If you really want to get down to the bottom, if you want to get down to brass tacks, she really is. So what he was trying to say was, I really didn't lie. I mean, yes, I'm married to her, but by nature, she's my sister, if you want to know the truth. I didn't really lie, is what he was saying, in my opinion. You see what I'm saying?
Right. That's of course true, but I would on the scale of major and minor, obviously that's a minor issue.
I agree.
Well, it is a lie because once they marry, you don't want to marry someone that says ever think of her as your sister ever again. If that was their culture and you married your half sister, you no longer look at that person as your half sister. She becomes
but it's still
your
the
wife.
truth. No matter how you looked at it, the fact remains.
Exactly.
Yeah, but you got to look at motivation, and the fact of it is that wife. The wife, in terms of the context of this, trumps sister, because the wife is the priority, and you won't.
Okay,
see
can we agree that
this is there's a cultural
difference right here?
Michael, you are right on this. You won't see sister when God mentions Sarah. God calls Sarah Abraham's wife, not his sister. So sister is only a ruse that Abraham is using in order to protect himself.
Just say Abraham lied to save his life. Look, Abraham lied to save his life. You have to say that. If you can't look at that scripture that you're reading and just speak facts and just say Miss Solution, he lied to save his life and move on.
Well, of course he did.
Exactly. Yes. You're right,
Hold on a
Michael.
second.
Wow.
I got a question.
Okay, he lied to save his life.
So Sarah's really not his
Abraham
half
lied.
sister? Sarah's really not his half sister?
No, she really was.
Oh, then how's it a lie?
Biologically.
He said it after the fact.
That's what I was saying.
He died.
That's what I was saying.
Well,
is my sister.
Biologically, it would always be his sister. Biologically, yes.
But when did the context of wife come along? Once they had what? A type of relations with one another.
Sex. Back then, yes, he had to conceive the sex. That's a part of that tradition.
You can't be. It's one thing that you can't be just sleeping with somebody that you're not married to. That's an issue within itself.
That's right. That's correct.
It doesn't seem like that big of an issue when they're killing people for their wives.
Which is the point Mr. Solution made. They don't have a problem with murder.
On accountability, if she's beautiful, it don't matter if she's.
That's what I was trying to tell the guys before about 15 minutes ago, but that's another story.
I'm listening to you. Very clever.
Right. That's what I was trying to say.
But get the name Gerar. With that name, Abimelech was king of Gerar. Do you think that's a name that most? Anyway, that's a very interesting name. And hey, look here. This is wonderful because this is thousands of years of history that has been preserved here. And the real point here is how the human dynamic is being played out. You know, we have kings here. We have, obviously, patriarchs. God calls Abraham a prophet. You notice it says here that he is a prophet, and he will pray for you. So we have a lot going on here, and I think it's presented very well. Oh, yes, that's in verse 7, where it says, "Now return the man's wife, for he is a prophet, and he will pray for you, and you will live." So God had threatened Abimelech and all of his kingdom with death if he didn't return that man's wife. Not his sister, his wife.
Did Abimelech suddenly get some morality?
Because...
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you know, it's you can imagine if God presented himself in a dream to you and let you know in no uncertain terms, you're toast. And that guy responded immediately. He didn't do what Pharaoh did.
In the chat, somebody asked a question in the BTR chat.
Yes, go ahead, hurry.
Repeat that.
Go ahead.
BTR place.
A question in the BTR
chat is another godless place. But go ahead.
And whoever this person is asked if Debbie could read the verse slowly. She said, "The host has a nice voice. Can she slowly read the verse?"
90 seconds.
Oh, hello. Thank you.
$20.
Oh, he want to get his kicks off. Wow,
Yeah.
Late night kicks, Debbie.
No. I said that. I said that in the chat room because being not trying to define it before she reads it, just reading it plainly with her a feminine voice, you will hear him explaining himself. I mean, we should at least assess that the Bible is honest enough to point out human misbehavior and immorality within sex. I mean,
60
Abraham,
seconds.
a little issue with his daughters and so forth. Abraham, who was speaking about now marrying his sister. So let's at least be honest about that. In this
right,
situation,
exactly.
In this situation, he's explaining how he almost came across a group of people who he don't know if they were going to be okay with that type of cultural. This seems like a cultural factor that's here as well.
Right, instead of beauty. That was your whole point. You saying how can he contextualize and saying it was just because of her beauty or stuff. It could have been her culture in the situation. I understand. But you got to realize, you keep on saying that these people they changed morality. There's written documents. If you can go and study the 42 negative confessions, that's in ancient time. Before Abraham, archaeologically, before Abraham, according to this Bible, was even here. So people even had some laws governing them. Right, so, you see, a lot of people say a lot of...
So I have a question for you on that one. When these Egyptians... When they agreed to have the 42 laws in power, that was political, right?
Exactly. And the Ten Commandments come from those laws. So there were laws governing before the Ten Commandments was ever on this planet.
Right. So we can honestly say then that Abraham was at least being politically...
People had morality. Yes, they had morality. Right, and they were just like normal other people, because even people who wrote that morality law, as some of the Jewish people, when they wrote their Ten Commandments, they still committed murder.
Back to the point I was making. At least Abraham was honest enough to be practicing politics, and it would be politically more sound for him to address her as being his sister.
Right, he had to lie. Right, like a child, he had to lie.
Politics.
That's my sister. It's called a survival lie. You know.
And he got his little. That's why I said it was a bribe. Then he got his contribution. He got, and the contribution would basically get on down.
Is lying to survive? Is that a sin? Beasley, is lying to survive? You said about business unethical earlier. Is lying to survive? Is that a sin?
No, not in my eyes.
Well, Michael, if you and I were related as we both had the same father. Let's say that my father and your father are the same. We have two different mothers. We fall in love and we get married and we end over in Beasley Town. There's a big sign outside Beasley Town that says, if we think your wife is good looking, we're going to kill your ass and take her. Okay? Obviously, I'm good looking. What do? When we get to the border of the town, you go, Debbie, Debbie, Debbie. You're my sister, you're my sister, you're my sister.
You come to Beasley, I'm going to put you in jail for incest.
It's no lie.
But you're going to say, Debbie, Debbie, Debbie.
It is a lie. It's a lie. No, you can't contradict yourself. It's a lie. Why can't we just be honest and say the fact?
Abimelech.
A lie.
Before we assess whether it's lying or whether it's good or bad, we have to at least assess that. What if you're practicing something that's in your culture okay, and you go to somebody else's culture and it's taboo?
It doesn't matter. When in Rome, dress like the Romans. I mean, if we go to Beasley Town and there's a law that says if I'm good looking, they're gonna axe Michael. Michael's gonna say, Debbie, say you're my sister. I'm gonna take off my wedding ring, which I truly am his sister, even though he's taken me as his bride.
So it's no lie.
Exactly.
That even come into context. We should stay on your beauty. He should have put something around your face. You should be trying to hide your beauty.
Right. But see, this is why I asked Mr. Solution. See, according to Mr. Solution, God knew that Abraham was going to go have that situation, and he was going to lie. Now, see, that lie was in contradiction or in conflict with what God wanted, according to Mr. Solution. No, because listen, if God knows everything you're going to do before you do it, everything you do is not in conflict with God. It can't be.
This must be like some new code of morality.
I'm
not a Bible
Abraham
expert.
Has two prior
But if you're telling me, if you're telling me that it's okay to have sex with your sister and marry her, and that's accepted, but if you lie about something, then then that's like some type of mortal sin. I have difficulties with that.
Exactly.
But I have difficulties with a lot of things.
That's why your caller was confused earlier, Debbie. It's confusing.
Yeah.
Because Abraham got 2 priors. His nephew has the same incest
But,
issue.
sir, in the chat
2
room,
sons
you said,
with
and
daughters.
I quote, that Jesus came not to do whatever but to, when he came to settle, everybody was all confused, and when Jesus comes, it all gets straightened out. Remember?
Yeah, but see, guess what? See, Jesus, listen, according to Jesus' genealogy, okay, I understand y'all believe it's not come from man, but according to his genealogy in the Bible, those 2 twins that were born, that's Jesus' great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfathers. And those twins came out of incest because, remember, those twins were, the father-in-law had sex with the daughter-in-law.
No.
Well, in the drunken stupor. The father impregnated. He thought she was a prostitute. You remember she had her hair closed and he had sex with her. Then she came back and said, well, he gave her this bracelet and stuff, and he said, well, who said I had my baby? And she brought, so the father had sex with his son's wife. Now, his son died. She became a widow. He wanted both of his sons to have sex with his son's wife. The sons didn't want to do it. God killed them, and then he wound up having sex. Those 2 twins are Jesus' great-great-grandfather. Look, read the written search.
It's even more than that, because I'm looking at a timeline. I'm looking at a biblical timeline, and approximately, this was 20. The story of Abraham, Sarah, and Abimelech was 2100 BC.
Okay.
So